Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Jack, I want you to pod me like one of your cast girls.
No. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I just as a fellow, you had to because everyone has been saying
that should be the title,
which we weren't gonna do because we're gentlemen, but
right.
You know, a time and a place. Hey, everybody!
Oh boy, Ben, level that one out.
My name's Griffin Newman.
I'm David Sims.
This is a podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and
David. I kept waiting. I wasn't sure when you were trying to hand that off to me.
We are hashtag the
two friends. Yeah, good. Yeah.
And this is a series where we study
movies.
I was gonna say filmographies.
Sure. Directors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Directors who have had huge success early on and get a series of blank checks to make whatever they want. And sometimes the check's clear and sometimes they bounce.
Sure. And sometimes people are worried they'll bounce.
Yeah.
And then they really clear.
Yeah, but what we always find interesting is David and I, we're connoisseurs of context.
Okay.
Right? We love movies, but we love context.
This is
we like
new.
looking at the context in which the movies were made. We like zooming out and looking at the career, you know, and tracking the ups and downs and marrying it to it and try and find good in every movie.
So we're making the bio longer for the podcast? That's what we're doing right now? We're going to do more?
Well, this is a supersized episode.
That's true.
In that it's a two-parter.
Oh, my God.
As if it was two VHS tapes.
Right. Let's dive in.
Okay. To the ocean.
Yeah. That's a good pun, right?
To pick up the ruins. We're searching for a diamond of an episode. It's the heart of the podcast. Where my point is, we've been doing a miniseries called Podnator: Judgment Cast.
That's his point.
I got 1 point to make, and this is the point. We've been doing a miniseries called Podnator: Judgment Cast.
Sure.
It's about the films of Slippery Jim Cameron.
Maybe we should have called it Podtanic.
We could have.
Maybe we should have done that.
This is Podtanic. Let's call this episode Podtanic.
Okay, so this is the big one. We're talking about the movie.
Jack. I'm podcasting.
So many. Maybe we should do a whole episode of just
intros.
Yeah, just lines that we could turn
I'm
into
the pod of the
podcasts.
Josephine on your podcast machine.
Oh my God! Women and podcasts don't mix, but we should actually prove that wrong, right?
We're gonna prove that wrong because
we
this.
have two guests.
We got three guests today.
We have three guests. I'm
guests.
sorry. I'm sorry.
This is a supersized episode. Talk about Titanic.
I feel like this is an episode that has been anticipated by us in this room for months.
Yes.
I don't know if it's been anticipated by our listening public, but
And let's say this.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has.
For both of us and for two of our three guests in the studio right now, they had said, as previous guests, fan favorite guests,
yes,
they had said, if you ever do James Cameron, let's go back to Titanic.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. 3D.
I'm ready to go back to Titanic.
Yeah.
3D, re-release, 2012.
I believe. Yeah.
It's been 85 years.
Well, no, it's only been 4 years since the 3D re-release.
Just felt like 85 years.
Yeah. But and that was, I think, somewhat of an incentive for us to do Slippery Jim himself.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
this is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I really think so.
So we got a lot of movie to talk about. We have two guests who demanded that they be in studio to discuss.
Right, and then a third guest who apparently slept through most of the movie. Yeah, but you know,
Rude.
yeah.
A little rude. Okay, so first up, here's I want to do like a dream team, like dum 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 dum.
What's the movie?
What's Titanic?
We talked about Podtanic.
1997. Podinator: Judgment Cast is the point I'm trying to make.
God damn it.
Don't you guys love how long and languorous these episodes are?
Yeah, we got some advice.
We got some advice recently that was like, they're like this?
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, they were like, your podcast should be half an hour long.
Griffin, can we keep nothing secret on this podcast?
I mentioned nothing else.
No, let's carry on.
I got some secrets.
No.
Buried at the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
They're my opinions on the film Titanic.
A woman's heart is an ocean of secrets.
Damn it.
A woman's podcast is an ocean of secrets.
A woman's heart is an ocean of podcasts.
A podcast's heart is an ocean of
A
secrets?
podcast is a podcast of podcasts.
Our first guest.
Yeah.
You can, I don't know.
I was going to try to do the Chicago Bulls intro music, but I forgot how it went, and I started doing
Alan
the Sigur
Parsons.
Ross.
Dun, 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 you know,
Okay, so
Alan
I was trying to
Parsons
do that,
project.
but then it sounded like the We Bought a Zoo song.
Dun,
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 dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, Michael Jordan. Yeah, okay. Dun, 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 dun. Our first guest on the podcast today. You know her from The Verge,
Sure.
the dearly departed podcast, Girls in Hoodies,
It's true.
but also
No longer at The Verge, I should point out.
Oh, really?
No.
No.
Where do we know you now?
Just riding the rails,
Free
baby.
agent.
Free agent.
Rail rider.
Tumbleweed blown in the wind, like
Yeah.
Yes,
Dawson.
a true tumbleweed blowing in the wind.
She's the boxcar Bertha of podcasts.
And you know her most of all from her appearances on the podcast Reawakens
True.
and Speed Racer.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Emily Yoshida.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Emily.
How's it going?
I'm excited to talk about the movie Titanic. Should we just start? Oh, wait.
Got two more
That's not how
guests.
this works.
We got two more guests.
Okay.
Dun, 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 dun,
You should
dun.
call the third guest the man in the middle. That's
Yeah.
what they used to say about Luke Longley. And they introduced him.
Bum, 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 bum.
The man in the... Go ahead. Yeah.
Our next guest, you know her from Vanity Fair and the Little Gold Men podcast. And most of all, you know her from the Sixth Sense episode.
We're also fighting in the war room.
Oh, fighting in the war room, but also most of all, the Sixth Sense episode.
right. Where we talk box office for a solid hour. It was a great episode.
Pod Night Shamacast, ladies and gentlemen, Katey Rich.
Hi, guys.
And last,
The man in the middle.
the man in the middle. You know him most of all from being a baby. And being Katey Rich's baby. And also from our Pod Dogs episode.
What?
He's gonna be the guest when we do Old Dogs.
Oh, okay. That's going to be that far in the future that he'll be able to be on the
Yeah.
podcast?
Okay.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie.
See if we can make some noise in the microphone. No.
Oh, yeah.
A
I
little.
think we're picking up some.
vocal
Sounds like
action.
he's barely breathing. I
Yeah.
promise he's fine.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah, we have a baby, guys.
He's
We have baby
wearing.
on this one.
I'd like to note that he's wearing a little onesie with headphones on them.
Indeed.
Very appropriate.
He doesn't
for
get his
first
own set of
podcast.
headphones for
or it's
this.
not his first podcast
Well,
at all.
you-
No,
actually-
he's been on Fighting in the War Room.
He's been on more podcasts than I've been on. Before, so.
He's an expert.
He's currently eating on Mike.
He's
which
eating on
is-
Mike.
Which
Oh
is
God,
very
that
good.
is,
He's got a
no,
bottle.
that's true. Yeah, I didn't get him
He's
a
a
I didn't get him
podcaster
a
after my
bagel,
own
which
heart.
I feel like is
Yeah.
Oh,
traditional
Charlie's
gotten-
first
here.
bagel.
Bagel with scallion cream cheese. He can
should
handle
have
that
a-
at
Charlie
3
should
months.
have a
Now
little
he'll be
bagel.
eating that on the Old Dogs podcast.
Yeah. Old pods. Now, you
Hot
know,
dogs.
Emily commented on Charlie's onesie
Right?
with the headphones.
Mhm.
And they
Yeah.
always say, dress for the job you want.
Sure.
And the job that Charlie wants, clearly, what he's messaging to us,
Mm.
is that he wants to be a producer,
An engineer, if you will.
a producer,
Yeah.
a benducer.
Do we have
Right.
one of those?
He wants to be a poet laureate. He wants to be our finest film critic. He wants to have a birthday.
Sure.
He wants to be a tiebreaker.
We all want to have a birthday.
He does not want to be Professor Crispy.
No.
He does want to be the fudge master.
I think he kind of does.
He doesn't understand words yet.
I just don't want to assign that label to a baby. It's not about him processing it. It's I don't want to be on Mike calling a baby anything other than the fudge master.
Even you have a line. It's good to know.
He is white hot baby. He is dirt bike baby. If you see him in the streets, wish him a hello fennel.
Definitely.
What I said poet laureate.
Yeah,
I
you
said,
did it. It's fine. You're good.
he's baby positive,
Sure. Okay, fine.
and of course the baby wants to someday graduate.
Remember that note we got about shorter?
They said the intro should be 30
all right.
minutes, right?
Just lazy Sunday podcaster, man.
Yeah.
I know, it is a nice lazy Sunday.
Nobody in the office.
60 degrees and sunny.
We all know the
It's
baby
a beautiful
Charlie.
day outside,
It
guys.
is.
It's
Very
really,
nice.
really nice. It's going to be over by the time we get
Oh,
out
it'll
of
be
here.
dark.
Yeah.
It'll be very dark.
Can we please keep this on topic? All these sidebars are driving me a little bit
No,
crazy.
I'd like to talk about the weather today. Beautiful day in New York City. About 59.
Yeah,
very
yeah.
crisp.
Yeah,
There was a little
beautiful
rain
fall
yesterday.
leaves
yes,
everywhere.
little
Yeah.
leaves have finally begun to turn.
Oh, I like watching Griffin get sidetracked and his little face, his eyes narrow. It's great.
My little face. We all know that baby Charlie wants to someday graduate to different titles over the course of different miniseries.
Yeah. This is why I was getting frustrated, guys, because I knew this was coming. I feel like people forget. Go on, do them.
I don't know, such titles hypothetically as producer Ben Kenobi, Kylo Ben, Ben Night Shyamalan, Ben Say Anything.
Okay, right. You're not putting the baby in those. Right. All right.
No.
And a future title for Cameron, we got to think about that.
There's
getting
one
close.
suggested recently, which I really liked, with T. Ben 1000.
T-Ben 1000 was okay. I don't know. I feel like I still want to think about this.
Okay, Ben Tanic.
Producer Ben,
is who Charlie wants to be.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Producer Ben is not on mic today because we have two guests.
Yeah.
And also he doesn't care about Titanic.
Right, and Baby Charlie has 4 mics right now, so Ben can't be in the studio. So Ben has a walkie-talkie. Maybe he'll come in if he has a point to make. Let me do my impression of what Ben thinks about this movie. I like that the ship was big. Yeah. That's Ben's comment.
There you go.
There's some good old technology in Titanic.
A very wet movie, too.
It's a very wet movie.
And he likes things wet.
Actually, this might be Ben's favorite movie.
I think it's Ben's
he doesn't
favorite
have
movie.
anything to say.
He's not on mic, but let's just declare it now. This is his favorite movie.
This is Ben's number 1 favorite movie, and he can't say anything about it.
Right.
The year is 1997. James Cameron's last film was 1994. Is that correct?
True Lies.
True Lies, which was the first film in his $500 million deal with Fox, 20th Century Fox.
Indeed.
His Lightstorm Entertainment shingle.
Yep.
His
You got it. That's it.
I was
Move on.
trying to think of a different term, but I think shingle is the right thing.
Shingle. Yeah, it's a shingle.
He makes his first film, True Lies. Costs $115 million. Most expensive movie of all time. Pow! It's a hit.
Sure. Arnie.
The SAG nominations roll in.
Yeah.
One of them.
In the first year of the SAGs.
Really?
Yeah, 95.
Kicked it off with a bang.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they weren't going to do an award show, and then they watched True Lies, and they were like, I mean, someone's got to rep
And she won
Jamie
a Golden
Lee.
Globe, Jamie Lee. But anyway, we're moving on.
That doesn't count, though.
Golden Globes aren't real.
By my account,
We'll just let that hang in the air.
I was doing some research today because there was a performance in the film I really liked of Bill Paxton's Beardo associate,
Sure.
who was a friend of James Cameron's, a diving buddy. He was also sort of a pulpy genre director and writer himself. He directed House 4.
Sure. Okay.
House, of course, the original is Ding Dong, You're Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made 3 more of them, apparently after the titular.
This is not the cult Japanese film House we're talking about. We're talking about the crappy American horror franchise.
Yeah,
yes.
apparently there were 4 of those.
Yeah.
And apparently this guy, I forgot to look up his name. It's something Abernathy.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Louis Abernathy.
Louis
I looked
Abernathy.
up before
And
we
he
started.
plays, what's his name? in
Louis
this movie?
Bodine.
Right.
See, this is what Katie's here for.
I literally looked up on IMDb before we
All
started.
right, fine.
Okay, so Louis Abernathy was diving buddies with Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here are 2 guys in the film industry who both like going down into under the sea, right? They both like Little Mermaiding it, right? And they start bonding over like their shared love of movies, of aquatic life, of all of this. And apparently, one year for his birthday, Louis Abernathy buys James Cameron, or doesn't buy him, gifts him a joke script he read for a Titanic movie.
Okay.
He wrote a Titanic script.
Okay.
And then was like, you should make a Titanic. Like, there's never been a great Titanic movie made. And that lights a fire under Jim's butt.
Which is not true, by the way. There is a great Titanic movie from the 50s called A Night to Remember.
Which is
that is a
an excellent
fantastic
movie.
film.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, carry on.
But they were very obsessed with sort of the details of how the ship went down, all the technical aspects.
And he did a dive.
Yes.
In 95, I think.
Yes.
And he got some footage, the first footage of the wreck that's in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and that fueled this.
And he just decided, like, this is what I'm going to do. He spends about a year and change writing the screenplay.
He likes water.
Loves water.
Piranha to the Spawning.
Mm-hmm. The Abyss.
Those are the 2.
And how many people drown in this movie? I mean, a couple people drown in the abyss, but holy shit.
Yeah.
A lot of drowning.
All of the people.
Also, death from sudden impact, I would imagine.
Many different kinds of death.
Yes,
Yeah.
lots of death.
Yeah.
Very deadly movie, yep.
Right. And also, let's not forget, in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the T-1000 is made of liquid metal.
Wow. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. All right, so...
Have you guys gotten to the bottom of Cameron's obsession with water over the course of this podcast? I mean, it didn't begin with... Did he fall in love with water on the set of Piranha 2: The Spawning? Did he see water for the first time and think...
He'd never seen water
You've never seen it before.
Love it.
Well,
Give me more of that.
Here's what I know. He grew up in Ontario, in Chippewa, Ontario.
Chippewa Falls?
Which is not Chippewa Falls, but I believe is how he was inspired in naming Jack Dawson's birthplace.
And near Niagara Falls, right?
I believe so, right across the border. And I think he would go like ice fishing and stuff. Maybe I'm literally just transposing his bio with Jack Dawson's, though. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, you're a lot of water around, some Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
It's
where
not-
the water
It's
comes
no
from.
ocean.
It's no ocean.
No, it's maybe
A lake-
little
a
bit
Great
of
Lake is
fishing
no
town,
ocean.
but there's not diving city.
Yeah.
But then
you know?
he moves to Hollywood, California,
Oh.
which is on the ocean.
Yeah.
If you think
It's
about
one
it.
of those famous ocean towns.
Yeah.
It's famous as a
Hollywood,
seaside
California.
town.
Yeah.
I've always thought of him as one of those guys who would like rather live in the Revenant era when there was the Wild West and things to explore, and then the bottom of the ocean is the last thing left. I think that's what he actually says. And he seems to kind of have that like explorer vibe about him. Like he wishes he could go to Mars.
You are the only one of us who has talked to James Cameron.
Indeed,
Yeah.
I talked to him on the phone just a couple months ago about a PSA he did with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So you have, I feel like, you've brushed the surface
that
of his
10-minute
madness.
phone conversation. Like I really
absorbed all
I
the
really
information.
learned a lot.
He went to high school in Niagara Falls.
Hey, water.
Yeah, I don't know. Water! But then it is, I mean, we talked about it in the Piranha episode. It is crazy how good and cool the underwater scenes are in that movie, and then everything else is utter trash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then the abyss, obviously. I
mean,
mean, that's the deep sea diving part. Like, right? That's where that's really getting fleshed out.
That's the thing. I mean, answer to your question, Emily, I feel like I've been searching throughout doing this miniseries for what was the Rosetta Stone. You know, like I want the clean narrative moment, Cameron style, where the thing is set up.
It's so easy to assign to someone like Shyamalan or like, you know, you can like, or Cameron Crowe. But he's harder. He's more.
Yeah.
He hasn't made autobiographical movies the way.
Not really, right? I feel like The Abyss is his most autobiographical movie.
Agreed.
As we talked about, his big divorce movie.
Yeah. I think the Paxton character in this is very autobiographical.
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
Oh, yes.
Even the way that he ends up with Susie Amos, it's implied at the end of the film.
It's pretty implied.
Yeah,
Did
right?
Cameron have an
implies-
earring back then? Because
Did Cam have an earring?
Bill Paxton is rocking an earring in this movie.
I think he does. Opinions on Bill Paxton's earring in the movie Titanic.
Sure. With the fisherman sweater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
works.
Era appropriate.
I think
but,
it's great.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
He's tan. You sense
He's
that
very
he's lived
tan.
multiple lives. So,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this is his, Northern Atlantic expedition look.
He's
Sure,
got a
but-
weathered handsomeness.
Yes,
He does.
but you
Yeah.
can imagine his chest is very tan if he was to take off
Yeah.
Yeah.
the sweater.
Yeah, and he's got sort of the frosty, not just the tips, but yeah.
It's kind of funny how handsome he is in this movie when he's usually not handsome. I feel like he's an
Yeah.
actor who likes to look weird
Yeah.
or dorky or with, like, he looks like such a creep in True Lies.
Yep.
I'm thinking about him in, like, Big Love. Like, I feel like he
Oh, but
doesn't...
he's fresh off Twister with this. So
He
he's
is,
like
that's
really
true.
in a good rogue adventurer period of
Yeah,
his
he's like in
career.
his, like, roughneck. And right.
And he gets the and Bill Paxton. Well, so
Oh, he
Twister.
does really.
He does. He gets
the
and
and.
Bill Paxton.
Wow.
So Twister was his like real sort of traditional matinee idol movie, right? Like that was the one time they sort of put him at the forefront of like a
Yeah.
big sort of blockbuster like that.
Basically. But, well, Mighty Joe Young, though.
Oh, right. And I think after that he was like, I don't want to be this guy.
And A Simple Plan, although that's not. But he is the
Oh,
lead.
that's a blockbuster. Yeah. No, I was saying of like that kind of like
Him as lead.
Yes.
As lead. He's great in fucking Frailty.
in a popcorn movie though. I'm saying.
Yeah, no, totally.
Where you want someone to look as sort of traditionally handsome as possible. I think he looks better in this than he does in Twister. And I wouldn't say it's traditionally my type
just
of
looking-
look.
I'm just appreciating his filmography.
It's an interesting filmography.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
U571 is in there, which I maintain is like a decent, underrated little movie.
He's
Weird
like,
Science?
He's like just above that guy status. Like he's
Right.
a name. You know who he is, but
Yeah.
he still has a that guy career.
He definitely does, and I do feel like almost all his most memorable roles are the Cameron roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
But then if you look at the other huge movies he's been in, I mean, you include Apollo 13,
Apollo 13 and Twister,
Oh,
those
yeah.
mid-90s.
Twister.
He's probably the least interesting in Apollo 13, right?
Yeah.
Apollo 13 power rankings is like Harris, Hanks, Sinise, Bacon, Paxton, and Quinlan's in there somewhere. And also that old lady who's not interested in Neil Armstrong. Guys, let's watch Apollo 13 right now.
Oh
I
my
love that
God.
movie.
Yeah, but you were okay. So David was hitting his hand on the wall
Yeah.
and like ranking them like vertically.
Yeah.
And I think you got to put the bacon on top.
Well, yeah, you do want some bacon on top, right? Because that's what he is. He's an embellishment.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing. He's maybe the least interesting actor in Titanic as well.
Kevin
talked-
Bacon?
No, Bill Paxton. We've talked about him a long time.
We're basically treating this like it's like a Bill Paxton film.
Well, part one of the episode is just Bill Paxton, and then part two of our Titanic episode is
Kathy Bates.
everything else. Yeah.
No.
No, Jeanette Goldstein.
I do.
Oh, yeah.
At some point in this podcast, I do want to rank the non Jack and Rose element of this film. Like who is the most and like
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Can I say,
Performance review. You guys haven't done this in a
Performance
while.
We haven't done.
Yeah,
Look, guys,
but
I feel
this
like
is
we
one
should
that
do
it's
everything.
crucial.
Any idea, just throw it out there and we'll do it.
but we all agree there's like a clear winner for best performance in this movie, right? Like with no qualifications, there's one performance that's better than every other performance in the entire
Are you
movie.
gonna Billy Zane
We're
us
all
right
gonna
now?
say it in unison on 3. 1, 2, 3. Victor Garber.
I
Yeah.
actually agree
Yeah,
with you.
no, that's-
I just couldn't tell if you were doing a
Yeah.
bit.
I wasn't doing a bit.
I
Victor
thought you were
Garber,
going to say Billy Zane.
Victor Garber's unreal in this movie.
I think Garber's great, but I think no. I don't agree with you.
Kate Winslet.
You think it's Zane?
It's Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet.
It's Kate Winslet.
No, I
But-
said outside of
no, sure.
outside of the leads.
I love Zane. He's so dialed into what this movie is.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic. I think Garber's great, though. I mean, Garber's one of those
Yeah.
all-timer, like, four-scene performances.
I think
Give Bernard Hill some credit as
He's
Captain
good.
He's
Smith.
good. Stoic.
I think Garber tops
Garber's
Winslet.
fantastic.
I think he tops
No, he
Winslet.
doesn't.
I said without qualifications.
But that's-
I think Garber's the best
But
performer.
that's
Do
apples
you
and oranges.
remember the scene that they played at the Academy Awards for Kate Winslet
What
being
was her
nominated?
clip? I don't remember her clip.
Her clip is so underwhelming. It's like nobody was going to actually like take it seriously. But it's just the one on the deck when she does her speech about I know what you're thinking, poor little rich girl, et cetera, et cetera.
Which is
just like
fine,
there's so many more like waterworks, fireworks,
Sure.
scenes you could pick. I don't know.
She really brings it
I
home in
agree
like
with
the
that.
last 40 minutes too. I think her best acting is sort of when she hits survival mode.
Oh yeah,
has to define who
in
she
the
is as a
hallway with
woman.
the axe. That
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
That should have been her clip. Was just her with the axe running down the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was when my grandma walked out of this movie.
Really?
Wow.
Why?
She had had enough.
That was
Too
that
intense.
Was,
She didn't want to watch more drowning.
Or she just didn't like it.
Wasn't into it, and my parents. I
It's
remember.
more upsetting the older you get.
Oh,
I will
absolutely.
Yeah. And your
Yes.
grandma was on the Titanic.
She could have been. She wasn't that old. But I remember we were like, "Did you see Titanic?" And she was like, I walked out of it." And we were like, "You walked out of Titanic?" We were kind of impressed because
Yeah.
that did take some balls. And she was like, she was swinging the axe at the handcuffs, and I was just like, "All right." she missed a lot of the good stuff. But,
That's maybe my favorite scene in the movie too, though. That's the scene that always jumps out to me is the handcuffs axe scene.
That scene is ballsy, I would say.
Okay, so
Where
let's
it's like the ship's already sinking. We need this, but he's like, "No, we need this. We need like."
Well, guys, we're already at the ship sinking. We might hit 30 minutes at this rate.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good. Yeah, we're done basically, right? Anyway, and in conclusion, Titanic. Okay, B plus.
yeah. Let's get back on track. Bill Paxton. Okay, the movie opens.
Under the sea.
The movie opens under the sea.
Yes.
No, there is the thing I think we should do with Sebastian. There is the thing I think we should do because I think it's important with this movie, and we want
Definitely
to hit
say
all the
3
things.
times that there's a thing you think we should do.
There's
without
one
saying what
thing
the
that I
thing
think we
is.
should do.
Uh-huh.
I think we should all talk about our experiences seeing this movie.
Well,
the
for
first
sure.
time. We do
I
that a
think
lot, and I think for
that's
this movie,
crucial.
it's especially important.
Mm-hmm.
David, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I saw this film opening weekend at the Rio Cinema in Hackney in London, which is a still standing, very cool, giant sort of picture house in London. Saw it with my friend Niall and his mother, and I walked out of it, and it was an extremely overwhelming and important experience. I walked out and I was like, "That's the best movie I've ever seen," and I went home and I told my parents it's the best movie ever made. And they went and saw it like a few days later, and they came back, and I was like, "Wasn't it good?" And they were like, "Yeah, it was okay." Like they were not that pumped about it, but it was huge for me. I think it was a huge grown-up movie by comparison to the shit I was 11 years old. Ugh, I love this movie.
Power forward, Emily Yoshida.
I saw this movie at the Lakewood Mall in Tacoma, Washington,
Cool.
as seen on the television show Cops many times.
Cool. All right.
I saw it with a big group of friends, no parents.
No parents.
It was I was in 7th grade, so we were kind of. I think the first movie I went to go see in a big group with no parents that I recall, like the stuck in my memory, was probably the first A New Hope when they did the re-release. So we were now exercising our muscles.
Your
No,
parental-
I guess that wouldn't be. But that wouldn't be right. No, I guess it was that summer. Yeah. So
New Hope is re-released that summer.
So it's
right?
the same group of friends I would go see for.
It was,
This film
it was
came
that
out.
winter.
Yep.
That was January, February, March of '97
Yeah.
was the Star Wars re-release.
This film premiered in Tokyo on November 1st, 1997, but it came out December 19th, 1997.
It's a long lead
Just
up.
Isn't
like
that weird?
the Carly Rae Jepsen album Emotion.
Great
Japan
great
got
album.
a month-long lead on it. Anyway, so I saw this. This is what I remember about this movie, which was that, of course, all of my friends were crying and weeping during it. I was, like, not so moved by the love story. I was
No, me
definitely
neither.
trying to be like a Daria about it, a little bit, like, too cool for it. I did think that all the ship stuff was very cool, but I remember this so clearly. I walked out of the theater and I vomited.
Wow.
Whoa.
And then I had a stomach flu for about a week. like that
Titanic
developed.
gave you a stomach flu.
Yes, and then I used to joke like, "Oh yeah, like I don't care about that movie. It made me barf." Like,
I mean, good joke.
Right,
It's
yeah.
a good joke.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. It's not that I didn't like it. I think it was a lot of movie. It was also a crowded movie theater filled with like middle schoolers, and there was probably more
Yelling
than
and
one
crying.
pathogen floating around in the air. So yeah, that's it.
So is there a point where you then start loving it? I mean, how does your relationship change with the movie over the years?
Well, I
You
could tell
still
you guys.
vomit every time you watch it.
I could tell you guys about the second time I saw this movie.
I think you gotta.
Which
it's
is-
a two-part.
have I
think
told-
you gotta.
Davidson, have I told you this?
Quite possibly. Please
Story.
use my full name every time.
I will. I have to call you Davidson.
I know why you have to call me Davidson.
But so this is an amazing story.
Okay.
Okay. So and I hope my mom doesn't mind me telling this story.
Does
So
your mom
we.
listen to this podcast?
She listens every week. She sends us tweets.
Past and future guests.
She's
Amazing.
active on
Amazing.
Twitter.
She was
You
on our
never
Wild
know.
Hogs episode.
You never know. You never know. So we had moved to Iowa City, and we were
Right this year, like right
we
around
moved
now.
in 1998.
Mhm.
So it was out on video at this point. And there was a guy, I don't remember his name, but he worked at in the astronomy school at the University of Iowa.
Okay.
And he had 24 access to the big theater, like planetarium theater. So he was
boy.
trying to woo my mother. So
I
he
have heard this
invited
story. I have heard this
he
story.
invited me and my mom to a private screening of Titanic in the astronomy theater at the University of Iowa. And I was like, Mom, like, that's the most romantic thing I've ever heard of. But, nothing ever came of it.
Now, when you say private screen, do you mean literally no one else?
Nobody else was there.
Oh my
It was
god.
in
me
a
and-
planetarium.
Oh.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. We
I
should do that right
can't.
now. Katie's face is
know.
Yeah.
lit up with delight.
98.
Listen to
That is
babies.
the direct route to a woman's heart in 1998.
Own a planetarium.
Yeah, I'd marry that guy.
I
Are you
know,
kidding?
right?
Today I'd marry him.
I wish I could remember his name. I would go and thank him. But
Jack
Yeah.
Dawson.
If you're listening, maybe can we get him back together with your mom now? Like, if
Yeah.
he's listening, and we can parent trap this whole thing.
yeah.
Well, he's
Director's
also
cut
a
this
past
time.
and future guest. He was on the Alvin and the Chipmunks The Road Trip episode.
Stop making all these Walt
I'm
Becker jokes.
retconning the Walt Becker miniseries, so people demand it. I cannot wait to hear how the Redditors respond to us having a baby on the
Redditors. The Redditors, they're going to love it.
Well, this is I made the observation that, of course, this is the episode in which you bring the women and children onto the podcast.
Right,
Yes,
right. Which I said we're pulling an anti-Titanic. We're keeping them on the boat. We're saying
Yeah.
women, children, please come
Or
in.
this is being
Right.
recorded on the lifeboat.
This
I
is
think?
Yeah.
the lifeboat.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Like-
right.
We are
You're
on
Molly
the
Brown. I'm Ismay.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Ben
Oh.
is Johann Griffith, just looking for us, looking for any signs of life off in the distance.
It's Yon
Yon?
Griffith.
Griffith.
But I thought it was Griffith.
It's Griffith.
Even though
Griffith.
it's Dud.
But you sort of say
Griffith.
it like Griffith. Like you say it
Griffith.
with a heavy th at the
Yeah.
end.
I've always viewed him as competition.
And he's got his Welsh accent in this movie.
Yeah, he does.
Which he later sanded away because obviously, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
No, I love the Welsh. I love the Welsh
Wow,
accent.
some harsh Welsh
Really
jokes.
hot.
from
Well, I
the
grew up in
Englishmen
Britain,
here.
and the English are trying to train to be mean to the Welsh, which is cruel. We shouldn't be so mean to the Welsh. They're great people.
Okay, Charlie Rich, tell us about your
Oh
first
my
time
God.
watching the movie.
It was yesterday, right?
He's still upset. He still
I
can't
know,
believe
he's
that they
so
didn't
many
end up together.
emotions. All right, I'm going to try and talk about my first time
Please do.
without Charlie interrupting it. Oh, so the story begins in 1992.
Oh
It turns out,
Wow.
whereas a second
We're all
grader,
trumping each other.
I became obsessed with the Titanic for reasons I don't really know, but I got Bob Ballard's book about discovering the Titanic, read it front to back, like knew all the stats about the Titanic. It was like my thing as a weird seven-year-old.
I feel like it's a common thread. I knew
Oh,
other
yeah.
kids too. There's something so fascinating about it as a kid, and
Well,
you can
sunk ships are something that is like cool. I mean, I think from Little Mermaid, maybe.
Yeah.
Sunken
Maybe,
ships
maybe.
are like very important and very like
It's
romantic.
definitely the idea of like the sunken treasure on the ship. Oh,
Yeah.
and also
my
just like
goodness.
wrestling with death, but in a way
Oh
that you.
boy, you really took this to a dark place.
But I think it's true. Like it's like an early thing that kids can deal with that is like
Yeah.
death. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah, it
involves
happened a long
death.
time ago,
Right.
so I got a cool like shipwreck involved. So I was really into the Titanic as a 7-year-old, and then cut to 1997 when the movie comes out.
Sure.
I'm very excited about Titanic. I see it the day after my last day of school before Christmas break. I was in 8th grade. Saw it with my 3 best friends and a guy who wound up going with us that I don't know why, but he was there. Shout out to him. And then I
Worked at a
brought
planetarium.
Thanks, guys.
and it was amazing, and we
try
had
and
a
date
great
your mom.
time. And then I've brought a journal entry from December 26th,
Oh,
1997.
shit. Right.
In which I write about, let's see, today's the 26th, and I went to see Titanic again. I swear no movie has ever hit me so hard or ever gotten me closer to crying. I didn't cry in movies much then. Even now.
Oh, you were closed off.
I know, but I
teen.
loved
Were you
it.
13?
13,
Right,
yeah, 13. Let's see. It's been haunting me ever since Monday when I first saw it. It's so wonderful, especially considering my lifelong obsession with the Titanic. So
That's a good journal
I think
entry.
I saw it twice over the course of Christmas break, and eventually, I think 7 times with my family and friends in theaters. Yeah, no, my family went. Like my dad went out of town, and my mom took all 3 of us to just like for fun on a Tuesday night.
So
and
you were one of the many Americans who just saw it over and over
yeah,
and
no,
over
that's just what
again.
we did.
Yeah.
And it was so my town still had a downtown theater at that point. It was like not like an old movie palace like it was built in the 60s, but it was like we could ride our bikes there and like go see Titanic. And it closed like a while ago, but it was in that theater from December until May.
Right.
Like I went to see it like when school got out at the end of that semester.
Wow.
So it was like a full semester's worth of 8th grade of going to see Titanic.
Who can tell me the movie that knocked Titanic off at the box office
you're
in
just talking
April?
about this.
Lost in Space,
Yeah.
which I also saw in theaters.
I also saw them in theaters.
Good movie.
William Hurt,
We'll do
Heather
it one day.
Graham,
That movie
Matt
is
LeBlanc,
out of its fucking
Mimi
mind.
Rogers, and Gary Oldman.
Yep.
Jared
Don't
Harris.
forget Jared Harris or Lacey Chabert.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So we were all in the age range
Yeah,
of
6th grade, 7th
like-
grade, 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were kind of in a succession of years. I'm wondering how much you guys were aware of parents being anti this movie, not wanting you to go see it, being a little
Because of the
concerned
nudity?
because of the nudity.
That was not an issue with me.
Well, ready for my story?
Oh, baby of the podcast.
Baby of the
Not
podcast.
second baby.
Second
So,
baby.
Griffin,
Yeah, I've
you
been
were
Trump.
probably about 7 or 8 years old?
I was in 4th grade, I believe.
Sure.
I did not see this movie in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
My parents saw it early, and they came home and they went, "It is bad, not worth seeing."
Oh my God.
That's how my parents basically reacted.
Right. Now, I also, like, as I've talked about in the past and also as a parent from all my behavior as a human being, my parents were, like, very protective media-wise when I was growing up.
Right. Well,
This
you weren't
was
allowed to see
same.
cynical films, as
Right.
we've discussed on this
Titanic
podcast.
is maybe the least cynical
It is an
film that's
the
ever
uncynical film.
most
existed.
earnest movie ever made. But,
it is literally a story of cynics on a
Yeah.
fucking boat who are hunting for treasure, like having their cynicism like pulled out of them by an old magic
David,
lady.
Also,
David
his-
Fudging Boat.
Also, historically, this is a story about hubris and about
Yes.
how, like,
Yes.
the industrial, like, the dark side of the Industrial Revolution and,
Absolutely.
like, class
Yeah.
stratification and all that. But, like, Cameron is one of, a few handful of filmmakers, I think, who would approach this story and be like, but it was so cool.
Yeah.
Like, it was so
But
awesome.
he does. I mean, the Billy Zane character, he's investing the sort of like these rich people having their toys and their power like stripped away from them
Yeah.
in that character. But
Right.
yes, he is also
But
like.
you can still
but
go,
wasn't it amazing that they built
look
this
at the
giant boat?
engines, look at
Right.
the turbines.
That's what's so amazing about this movie is that it is so in love with the Titanic,
Oh,
even
yeah.
though it's also acknowledging like it was a horribly built thing. Like it didn't make
was a
any
bad
sense.
idea.
It
Bad
had-
ship
But it
would not ride
looked
again.
so good.
it looked good.
Look great.
All right, so you didn't see the film in theaters.
Can I just give a little side shout out? Katey Rich, goddamn pro.
That was incredible.
Because she was pulling up diary entries on her phone, talking off the dome, not missing a word, doing like ninja mom moves. You
Guys-
can't describe it, but there was like
What are
four
you, James
different.
Cameron with your love of mothers?
Hey, look,
Guys, women can have it all.
tis
I'm
the
here to
season.
prove that.
Tis the season.
Podcasts, babies,
Yeah.
podcast guest appearances.
But there was like, let's try the pacifier. No, let's shift to the bottle. Let's do some rocking, change positions. Out missing a beat. It was
Meanwhile,
unbelievable.
just trying to praise Katie, you
I
almost knocked
I
your
punched
microphone
my
over.
microphone.
All right.
Okay.
So you didn't see the film in theaters.
Right. So at the
did
time,
you want to, or
Well,
did
so
you
here's
just
the
take
thing.
that on board?
I think there was a little bit of like, not Stockholm syndrome, but like conditioning where it was like, if I wanted to see something that all the cool kids liked, my parents were like, you can't see that. I'd be like, I don't want to see that. My parents told me it's stupid.
Right.
You know,
I
like
was
I'd
the
have
same
to
way.
play the elitist
So you were
thing.
non-rebellious, and instead, right, you dialed into whatever, being like a
But
fake
like,
grown-up.
wouldn't
Like,
saying
I'll
my
be really
parents
into
said it's
Big Night. Speaking of Tucci.
But isn't that like the opposite of the cool kids? Like my
That'll be
parents
my
told me
movie.
not to see it.
Well, see, I wouldn't frame it as
Tucci
that.
and Campbell
Oh,
Scott.
you're like, oh, I heard it was bad. Like I read a review.
We're just having two parallel, two-person conversations. Yes, I would do that. I would high road them, not by being like, my parents told me it's bad, but be like, I don't know, that movie looks uninteresting to me.
Right.
You know, I would like do that. But so at that point, they didn't say I couldn't see it. I could have gone to see that movie,
It was
but
rated
they said it was
PG-13.
bad.
You could have gone.
right?
We're like 7.
I
You're
know.
pretty
I've gone to
little.
see it. All my friends saw it. Every one of my grades saw it. Yeah.
Alone without
I was
a parent?
8. I was 8.
He went to hippie Brooklyn private school. Let's not forget.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you know, my sister was in 4th grade and she saw it and all her friends saw it.
My brother did not see it. Yeah,
Also,
go
at
ahead.
this point, I was in hippie.
Manhattan
yes,
private school.
Lower
sorry,
East Side.
you were not yet at
Right.
hippie Brooklyn private school.
Please, big difference. But all my friends saw it. It was like the movie, definitely.
Sure.
Everyone I knew had seen it. When I went to summer camp, everyone I knew had seen it. But I just was like, I heard it's corny. I heard it's overwritten.
Me and my friend Gavin loved the movie.
Yeah.
This is like a friend I had when I was in primary school, and would play "My Heart Will Go On" like my sound system
Wow.
and like dance around to it. We were 11-year-old boys, maybe 12. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that like with abandon? We were like so happy
That's
to do this.
so charming.
Is it?
Do you guys remember? I don't know if they did that. I imagine they did this at every radio station, but they would play like the mega mixes.
Oh, yeah,
of
with
My
the
Heart- with the
dialogue-
dialogue
dialogue?
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You jump, I jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never let go. And it like
Yeah.
echoes.
Never let go.
Yeah.
All right, but so when did you see
Probably like one of your
Titanic?
cast girls. So when I was like 15 or 16, at the height of my own cynicism, I was like in this thing. I think I talked about this in the past, where I just was like, homework is stupid. I'm only gonna watch movies.
Right.
And so I just like every night would just try to watch a different movie I hadn't seen before on TV. And like Titanic was playing tonight, and I was like, I'm gonna watch Titanic.
Okay.
You know, at this
So
point,
this is years later.
it's been like 8 years since
Sure.
the movie had come out. You know, this was 2005
2005,
maybe. And I was like, I'm gonna watch it. I watched it, you know, full screen, like standard def on
With
my
commercial
little
breaks?
bedroom TV. No, it was on like, you know,
HBO.
Cinemax or
Oh,
whatever. Yeah, it was on like a movie channel. It was uninterrupted, but it was like not a good format, low
Right.
def.
On a CRT.
I had a really small TV in my room, and I was like, this is dumb. Watched the whole thing because I liked Cameron a lot.
Right.
After it hit the iceberg, I was like, the ship stuff's cool. Rest of the movie's
That was
dumb.
the classic boy, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
As a
Right.
boy,
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, well, you know, all the romance stuff's boring, but then it's cool because like everyone dies.
But
Like,
here's the thing that's kind of interesting, okay?
yeah.
I like that's the most stereotypically male thing that has
I don't
ever happened
mean
in
to,
my life. That
like,
it
cut
was
this
that
up,
I felt
but-
that way about Titanic at the time, which was like kind of usually off from how I felt about things. I was at 15 or 16 mostly interested into romance movies. Like that was
All right.
like
You're,
I loved like love stories, and I was like, this is corny. It's like overwrought. It's lacking in specificity. It's just like kind of like pablum. So like watch it was like technical accomplishment. Don't care, right? And then like 6 months later, I was with my buddy Derek Simon, who I've talked about before.
Yep.
He lived in Long Island. We would make little short films together.
He's about to be
went
married.
to his house. He's about to be married next weekend as we're recording this. I went to his house for the weekend to like make a little short film. And then we like saw Titanic was on TV, and we never finished our movie because we were like, let's just watch Titanic. We both just sat there and we were like, this is dumb. This movie sucks, right? So he blows. Watch the entire thing, right? Then like another time, Derek and I ended up doing the same thing where we were supposed to make a movie and we watched the entirety of Titanic on a TV.
It
And I
is.
was like,
It does that.
No, it does. It has
Yeah.
that
I was
power.
like, it's dumb. I mean, it's like got good stuff in it, but it's like not a good movie, like objectively. And then, cut to 2012, the 3D re-release, right?
Ah.
Now, in between these two things, right? Watching with Derek and the 3D re-release, I had gone to a Goodwill and I saw that they had the Titanic, the VHS set with the two tapes.
The two tapes, yeah.
And I was like, I like this stuff after they hit the iceberg. I'm just gonna buy the second tape.
Oh my god!
That's
Wow.
obnoxious.
I
really
think the
obnoxious.
iceberg hits before the second tape begins, if I remember correctly.
It must, because the second tape couldn't be, because the iceberg hits about 2
Or also,
hours
they
in.
showed it in my theater with an intermission, so I might be thinking of where the intermission
Sure,
started.
fair enough.
in,
Where was the intermission? All right.
it? Was
I'm going to look at
I think it was in different places. And for us, it was right when they send the flare out, and it's like the
Okay.
big shot into the blackness.
Yeah.
That's where the intermission was.
Because I
in the
don't
theater.
think there was like a studio suggested intermission. I think some theaters just chose to place an intermission,
So you could go
right?
to the
Probably
bathroom.
true.
Yeah.
And buy more stuff.
Yeah.
I would watch. I was kind of a jerk because I bought only the second tape of Titanic, which means someone was stuck only buying the first
it's
tape of Titanic.
A 10-reel film, by the way.
Oh my
10
God.
reels.
10-reeler.
Wow.
I would watch just the second tape a bunch with my friends. I liked that. And then when the 3D re-release happened, I was like, I got to see this thing like.
Yes,
You know.
Griffin. All right, wrap this story up.
So I went and saw it in 3D. I was like, I need to see this on big screen and like
Sure.
the proper dimensions, all of that. Like, see if I can get it. And the movie starts, right? 3D. I was going on a second date with a relationship that did not go anywhere.
Okay.
But it was someone I liked a lot at the time. And so I was like into that. I was like jazzed about the fact that I was like with her. The lights go down. There's the black. And then as it like fades in on the sepia, footage of the Titanic, and the first strain, I immediately hear people cry. Right?
That's how I reacted just when I rewatched it just now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I went, oh, I get it. Like already, I get it.
Seeing it
And
with a crowd
yeah.
is huge.
So that was the thing.
Oh,
I saw it
definitely.
the 3D remaster was good. It's obviously not the ideal format of the movie, but I thought it was well done. But I was seeing it in widescreen in a big sold-out theater on a Friday night, and it was like a date night. I think they opened it right around Valentine's Day.
Yep.
And I just the whole time was like, I get this 100%. And the stuff that I previously thought corny, I was like, this is so effective.
Yeah.
This is like,
The best.
I mean, it's like immaculately designed, like strategic attacks on your heart, right? And it's so well done. And then the stuff after they hit the iceberg, I was like, even better than it was for me before because now I got the emotional investment. I probably watched it one more time since then. I own it on Blu-ray.
You watch
It's the
movies
best.
now, and then you watch Titanic, and you're like, fuck, like they'll never do stuff like
Fudge,
this again
but
in
yeah,
movies.
right, yeah. Yeah, Titanic's the best. I love it now. I own it. I've watched it a couple
Remember
times
watching
since
it in
then.
Videology?
Yeah, the best.
That was. I think we've talked about
that's
this
a
on the
fun place to
podcast,
watch
but
Titanic.
yeah, it was playing before trivia, and so there was a huge crowd assembled. Titanic was finishing, and then in that last scene, you know, we'll get to it, but the last literally scene in the movie, everyone just started screaming. Do you remember that? It was really
The scene with old Rose.
the dream she has.
Or
Yes.
is it a dream?
Or is it a dream?
That's what wins the film Best Picture. I think.
To me, that's what wins the film $1 billion plus worldwide.
it's
That's
that-
why people see it again because it has a happy ending somehow, even though it's
insane.
about the sinking of the Titanic.
It's insane. But to your point, what you said, I mean, even just I watched this on Blu-ray because a lot of times with this podcast, especially when it's like rewatching movies I've seen a bunch of times that we're covering, I'll download it onto my Amazon Kindle Fire, which is a great product, right?
Wow.
Shit, non-HD Amazon Kindle Fire.
It was $40. It's not HD. I should probably upgrade.
You probably should.
Jeff Bezos won't give me one. I've texted him a lot, and he goes, "New phone, new disc." And a lot of times I'll watch it on Netflix or whatever on my laptop in my bed when I'm like trying to fall asleep and watch it piecemeal or whatever. For this, I was like, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch the entirety of Titanic on Blu-ray on my TV, and was just taken aback by this still looks like the biggest movie ever made.
It's true. It's very seamless.
Like 19
He's made
years
little
later,
tweaks and fixes, I think, but it's
still,
very seamless.
it still looks like the most expensive movie ever made. Like I don't know if there's a movie that feels larger to me than Titanic.
And what's the actual most expensive movie ever made now? Is it like Pirates of the Caribbean 3 or something?
Or like 5. No.
Or maybe
What's the last
4?
one they made?
Four.
Yeah.
Well-
On Stranger Tide.
He has never disclosed. No one has ever disclosed the actual final budget for Avatar.
Avatar, right, yeah.
The common belief is that Avatar is the most expensive movie, but they've never admitted how much it costs.
Right, but the highest reported budget is
It's on Stranger
Pirates of the
Tide.
Caribbean 4, $378 million.
It's all on the screen.
Yeah. Johnny Depp got 300.
Who can tell me what that movie is about?
Some
Pirates.
Stranger Tide. Okay, we're done talking about us seeing the movie. We're going to talk about the movie.
Bill Paxton. Okay, so the movie starts with like an abyss ship. I mean, first there's the sepia montage. We see the
Which
footage.
is essential. The sepia montage, that seems like something that at the end they were like, Jim, you need to have something in the beginning. It can't just start on a submarine.
Right.
they came here for a romance.
Set the tone.
I will say the entire prologue until you finally do the back to 1912.
The sheets that
cut.
Irvin slept in.
Oh yeah, with that. But building up to it, it takes its time. It must be almost a half an hour.
I think it is, yeah.
But
I thought it
it's-
was more. It's like 20 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's so well paced. I think they give you just enough of morsels of
They
know
do.
that you're walking and you've seen the poster. You know that it's Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet having a hot, sexy time on a boat, and they give you these little
Very accurate.
It's literally
actual-
steamy.
Yeah. actual flashes. Even, I get chills when I see the shot of, or when she is looking at the submarine footage, and you get those little
the
flashbacks.
music.
Yes,
like,
and
the music
his
comes in for a
eyes,
second.
and
You see him at the top of the stairs and all that. It's almost it's more rewarding
Guys,
going
I
back.
want to watch Titanic again.
Going back and
We need to
watching
go back
it.
to Titanic.
Going back and watching it, even the fourth, fifth, sixth time or whatever, when you see that and you've already seen the movie several times, you're like, yes, I'm watching Titanic. That's the feeling.
Yeah.
But it is huge, and because think about it, the amount they have to convey. It's like you see them diving, and they're in the ship, and he's like, these windows are a foot thick, or 9 inches thick, or it's so deep. Then you see inside the wreck, and it's the real wreck, and you're like, right, his little robots going through the doorway,
Duncan.
and then they don't find whatever they're looking for. Yeah, Duncan, right.
Yeah.
And then they find the nude picture, and then you see Gloria Stewart and Susie Amos at home looking at it, and then they fly on, and they're explaining who she is. Like, that is a lot for 20
And
minutes.
there's a lot of jokes in that sequence, which I think is really important because you're signing up for historical romance.
Well, and Abernathy kills it.
Yeah,
Abernathy's great.
You get Bill Paxton being like, the ghost ship rising from the darkness, and immediately that guy calls him on his shit. You're like, okay, so we're all agreeing that there's, like, humor in this.
And when they open the safe and the diamond isn't in
And he
there, and
makes
they
the
go,
Geraldo
right, don't
joke.
worry, the same thing happened to Geraldo, and that only ruined his career. But this speaks to like how big this movie is, not just on like a technical sort of scale production level, but even just like the epicness of the storytelling in this movie is that like I'm not just using a modern day explorer as like a quick intro into the movie. He's setting up like an arc for this guy.
That's the thing.
Like the first 20 minutes, this movie is like we're not taking like
It's him,
we're
right?
not rushing. Right, it's him.
He's the treasure hunter who then realizes, like, no, this is human. This is people.
100%.
Right? Yeah, right.
But I also think like the way, as you said, that they construct it, where it's like, you know, first we're seeing the technical thing, then we're sort of meeting the characters, then we're understanding the struggle of what he's looking for, then we're introduced to Old Rose. Like all of that, he's saying like, sit back. Like this is gonna take some time.
Sure, right.
Also,
I got
He's
a
pacing
big
you.
picture here.
That's what ultimately made it, I think, you know, even if guys would scoff and say, oh, I only care about the ship, that at least, like, doesn't turn them away.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, you realize, oh, this is somebody who does care about, like, the historical significance and, like, what's it like to go on a dive and all that.
Right.
And,
And you got some classic
they're-
Cameron Roughnecks in the opening who are speaking kind of like the guys who are being dragged on date night. Who are just like, look, I just want to find that diamond. I want to get rich. I want to
Sure.
smoke a cigar. I got one earring.
Yeah, like this chick's probably lying that she was on the Titanic.
Yeah.
She's a very old lady.
Goddamn
very
liar.
old goddamn liar.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Right, these teenage boys sit there, they don't want to see the movie, and then immediately the movie tells them all women are liars, and they go, now,
red pills. Red pills.
red pills.
No. 2 years before the Matrix, so they weren't yet woke.
But the MRA movement was alive and well.
It was,
Yeah.
of course. But also, there's just magic to the sight of the real wreck that is
Oh,
like
100%.
inescapable. Right, like, you know,
And
looking at that
Paxton's
thing.
eyes are magic.
Oh, they're so
it's so well lit that I didn't think at first that it was actually from the
Some of it is
How
real
can-
and some of it isn't. They recreated some parts of it. and
I think
if
the interiors are fake, right?
some of them are
Oh,
real. If
really?
you listen to James Cameron's commentary, which I highly recommend, he will tell you exactly which shots are real.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Before we get off of the intro, there's a master, and not that we're getting off it immediately,
No, we're getting off.
but there's a master stroke that I think is the key to the entire movie working as well as it does, which is planted in the opening. So, you know, they're looking for the diamond. They don't find it. They go on TV. She hears the newscast. She goes to them.
Wasn't I a dish? Yeah.
Right. But also Paxton's like, I don't think this is going to pan out. They go, I think you want to talk to this person. Then Abernathy's like, look at the signs. The name, there's no listing for her in the registry. It says she used to be an actress.
Right.
Looks like she's just looking for attention. She'd have to be 101 years old. All this stuff, right? So they're like setting it up like this isn't going to work. She gets there, and the first thing they do is they mansplain to her the sinking of the Titanic.
yeah.
Great.
Oh,
yeah, and
yes.
the CGI remodel that he shows you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your forensic analysis.
Right.
Mr. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
it's great because it encapsulates the entire thing the movie is trying to do, which is the balance between the emotions of the actual people who experience this thing and the spectacle of this crazy, horrific thing that happened, right?
Yeah.
But also, because they have this scene, which is like, they make it part like of the sort of text of the movie, which is her trying to find her own independence and not wanting to live the life that everyone wants her to have. And she's in a world of mansplaining constantly, right? They also now in detail explain to you exactly how
What
the
Titanic
ship's
sank.
sank.
No,
Yeah,
it's
what's gonna
essential.
happen.
It's so crucial
Which is
because then you
brilliant.
understand what's happening when.
Yeah,
no one
nobody
has
would be
to
able
like,
to say like, nobody
Yeah.
would be able to explain the compartments or like how it's going to split in half or
Right.
everything.
You
yeah.
just
It
have
would be
to
great if
chart.
as someone was like falling, like, oh, it must be that the bow is sinking out.
But you like
can't help like the pressure of the. Go on, sorry.
he gets it done so quickly at the beginning of the film. He has Abernathy do it, so
Yep.
it's kind of
She's got
funny.
a big ass in the
Right,
air.
Yeah.
right, because
that's
he's
a big
making jokes
ass.
out of it, so it feels like character development. Her response is telling you everything you need to know about her already and setting the stage for her lifelong battle. But then it also is now, when the ship sinks, all we have to track are the emotions.
Yeah.
But it's also an incredibly, like, cocky move to be like, I think I can tell the audience everything that's going to happen. The joke is like twist ending the ship sinks, right? That's what the joke everyone made when the movie came out. Is
Right. Like, why do I need to see it? I know what happens. Right.
But
yeah.
he's like doubling down on that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to tell you exactly how the ship sinks. You're going to know every beat of once things go wrong, and you're still going to be invested in this thing.
There is no real reason for them to show her that the animation.
No, really
it's like
is
it's kind of
not.
like aggressive. Like, oh,
Yeah.
how's your PTSD doing?
Now that you say that, it's
Do
almost
you remember?
bizarre. That
This
they-
is you. Like,
But that's what I like is the fact that Abernathy is the one who's showing her makes
They
it.
did that previs, so I mean,
Right.
they just wanted to show it off.
But I also think it works because that character is the one guy who'd be like, she'd want to see this, right?
Right.
She'd probably
right,
love
right.
to see this.
Forensic.
Forensic. But people always talk about like, this was famously like one of the only Best Picture winners to not be nominated
For screenplay.
I think maybe the only one in history, maybe.
No, Braveheart, I think. Or
Really?
was it nominated? I'll look it up.
But to not even be nominated, it's like a very rare thing, and everyone's like, "Oh, the dialogue's hokey, this and that." People focus too much on dialogue.
Braveheart not nominated.
Okay.
Yep.
People focus too much on dialogue when they talk about screenplays because the thing this movie's got going for it is just
structure.
So good.
it's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's
Especially for an epic movie, which I feel
Yeah.
like is hard to pull off.
It's
in
a perfectly
this era of Hollywood.
designed movie from a writing standpoint. Like
It is.
it has everything in the right order to pay off maximally.
Also, it doesn't really, I mean, because it is a love story, I guess, but it doesn't fall into the thing I think you would think a movie would fall into, being a 3-hour movie about the Titanic, which is just that, like, oh, it's going to be like Altmany. There's just going to be a million people running
Sure, which is
around.
the night term. Right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And
yeah.
those people are there, but it's just like you're allowed to also kind of focus on, like, to have a movie that you trust to really essentially two characters the entire time, and it's 3 hours long, and it takes place on the Titanic, just feels like.
And to constantly be looping in like, oh, but here's the captain, or
Yeah.
here's Molly
Yeah.
Brown, or here's
Yeah.
Ismay. Like, here are the real people, and I've made sure to like,
But they're just like
give them
little
all their
side
proper
dishes.
names.
I mean,
little side dishes.
even you
Yeah.
look at the way, like, I always think that Jeanette Goldstein's part's bigger than it is because
It's
it leaves such an impact. But she's on
three
screen
scenes, maybe 3 very brief scenes.
3 scenes that are each like 15 seconds
You
long.
see her entering. You see her when she's saying to her kids, like, well, the first classes, mommies and daddies have to go, or whatever.
Right.
Like, yeah. And then the final scene.
But there is like, as much as Cameron gets kind of raked over the coals for not having a sense of sort of like, specificity, or sort of like realism to his sort of
There is, yeah.
characters, it's like, oh, he writes it very large, they speak their emotions and all of that.
Well, I mean, no one better exemplifies this than fucking, what's the Italian guy? What's his-
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the
I
hell's
can
his
see
name?
the Statue of Liberty.
The actor's name's Danny Nucci. The character's name is not
Fabrizio.
Enzio.
Fabrizio.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I'm
watched.
going to go to New York and be in a band called The Strokes.
If you'd said that, then the movie would get 6 stars for me. That would guarantee a screenplay nomination. Yeah.
I'm gonna date the Drew Barrymore.
He's just, I mean, like, Cameron's fetishization of
Immigrants?
white immigrants
Yeah.
to America,
Yeah.
especially the Irish and the Italians in this movie, is a little much. I would say, even for this movie. But nothing is more much than Fabrizio. He almost says "Mamma Mia" when he dies. Like, I mean, you almost remember him saying that, even though he doesn't.
But I think that like the key to it is, as you said, like, so he doesn't take an Altmany approach, right?
Right.
It really is these two characters. Everyone else is sort of like an adversary. The other major characters, right? Or adversarial forces.
But it's like he's got the upstairs downstairs
Yeah.
approach. That's
Right.
That's his hook, right?
and those human elements, like he writes them really big and really unsubtle in the first half of the movie.
Totally.
Right? And they don't go down easily, but they stick in your craw.
Especially
you remember them.
Their initial introductions are
Yeah.
so broad.
Like when
Right.
they're getting onto the ship.
yeah,
Right.
like her being like, Titanic, I guess it's big.
And even like Molly Brown,
Yeah.
Fabrizio, like all that sort of stuff. It's like, okay, the first half of the movie, you're like, this is kind of clunky. But the second half, when we don't have time to like have character moments, and
Right.
Jimmy really cuts it down to the bone and does a lot of these big emotional beats just through looks or actions or stuff like that. It helps to be like, I know Fabrizio. He's climbing up the ropes and trying to cut them now. I know that guy.
Yeah.
You
I know
know?
the Irish guy.
Right. Like that all pays off later. Because as
Tommy
much as
Ryan. That's
yeah,
his name.
as much as it isn't like a kaleidoscopic ensemble kind of film, it's
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that the captain gets as big of an emotional moment,
Sure.
Garber, Fabrizio, like
Murdoch.
all these characters, yeah. It's crazy. And
I mean,
even yeah.
I want to say, and this is going to sound kind of dismissive,
Nitpick.
but it is, they
Pick
are
the nits.
settings still. They're not
Sure.
really characters,
Right.
but they're there to, I mean, the thing is that it's a really well fleshed out setting. So they
Yes.
are very, you need all of these elements to fully realize, like, this is the world that they live in. This is like, and the ship is a microcosm of the world, and their love is a microcosm of the ship, and all that. And so, like, you have to have this, kind of Greek chorus of, the Irish kids and the
Sure.
and the snobby ladies in first class.
Absolutely,
and
the
stuff.
Countess.
The
Yeah.
quartet.
And
Yeah,
like
the quartet, yeah.
individually, those things I think are probably a little weak, but over
Corny,
the
corny, the corny.
a little corny, a little easy.
Yeah.
I'll say, but I think that the sum of them all together, and just like also just the rhythm of going back and forth, going from like the dinner to going down to the rowdy party
Well, that's
downstairs.
what I feel like he's very clear about it
Yeah.
too. I was noticing it on my rewatch for this podcast. It's like he really makes sure to take you down methodically every time and then back up. Like he loves to take you through the decks of the ship one by one and really communicate like how much difference there is.
Yeah.
And of course, everything is very broad, and that is part of how it communicates.
Katie has re-entered the studio with a newly quieted Charlie.
God, what did she
We'll
do
see
to
how
him?
long we
We're
last.
going to see if this takes.
I feel like Charlie doesn't like our commentary.
He
He
disagrees
doesn't
with
like
all of our points.
analysis.
Yeah, he has a lot to say about Titanic, guys, as he's been trying to tell you.
So we should actually talk about the introduction of these characters and maybe the plot, who they are.
Well, yeah, so,
Sure.
Basically, I want to talk about Billy Zane, but
Sure.
let's just get into it.
Lewis plays the video. Is like, does that seem, like what you remember? And she's like, it was 75 years ago. And they're like, oh, great, old lady. She's not going to remember
Bill Paxton's
anything.
like, anything you can remember. Just, whatever. Sense memory, maybe. Is there a color that you
And she's like,
associate?
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Boom, Bill Paxton.
Home.
By the way, I really want to say Gloria Stewart is someone
So good.
who's
Yeah.
incredible in this movie. And I remember as a kid, I dismissed her and thought it was hacky that she got an Oscar nomination. I was like, what? She's an old lady. Now you watch it. And it's a remarkable performance. She's an old silent movie actress.
She was the leading lady in The Invisible Man,
Right. And
the original Universal Monsters.
Cameron
movie.
wanted Fay Wray, they say, or like, he wanted like an old actress. And it is such a clever idea to like link it back to that era.
Yeah.
Both in the type of film he's trying to make and obviously the period he's trying to recreate.
I think she was 86 when they filmed
Yeah,
it.
she was not 101 years old or whatever.
And they said she looked too young, so they had to apply old age makeup to her.
Right.
The makeup's really good. in
She
it.
makeup
looks
is-
real wrinkly.
I did not know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
she is very wrinkly. But
And the
that's
liver
like,
spots too are really well done.
She died 5 or 6 years ago at the age of 100.
Wow.
Look at her.
James
That's,
Cameron was at her 100th birthday party.
Wow.
that's her in her glory days.
Wow.
1932.
It's also good because she was
She
like
dated Marx or was married to a
one of the Marx brothers.
Oh.
I feel like I made that up maybe.
Are you reading Gloria Stewart
No.
slash fiction?
Yeah.
Groucho Marx once interviewed her.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Maybe
I
they-
knew that she was. I was into the Marx Brothers in 1997, so I feel like maybe
You're-
was aware of her.
She once, in 1972, she drew a painting of the Watts Towers.
Oh, well,
She
good for
became an
her.
artist after 1945.
That's what you were thinking of. She didn't date a Marx. She painted the Watts.
That's it. All
That's
right,
what
it's
it is.
all.
That's okay.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
She made
Um,
decoupage. She made bonsai artwork. She was a smoker. Was diagnosed with lung cancer at 94.
Dang.
Still held on for
Respect.
6+
Give me
years.
6 more.
Yeah.
6 more and I'm
Oh.
good.
Holy shit! A lifelong Democrat. Yeah, she was married twice. The second guy they were married for like 40 years. Yeah,
That was James Cameron, right?
avid environmentalist.
I do think it's
Funny
smart.
man.
Like, thank you. I do think it's smart because, like, Fay Wray's even a little more iconic than Gloria Stewart. I think it was smart to get someone who was like part of that era, but not
Right,
like
not doesn't stick out.
right. And it was kind of like a nice, like, we're giving her one last shot. Like, she never was huge in her heyday, and here she gets this late in life Oscar nomination. She is really excellent in it. Also, when we did our Matrix episode, and I kept on singing the praises.
Yeah,
of,
you kept calling Gloria Foster. Is that her name?
Yes, Gloria Stewart by
right.
accident. I love that performance. So for the rest of this episode, I'm going to call Gloria Stewart Gloria Foster
Please
to try
don't.
to level out. I'm trying to level it out.
Please don't. All right.
So she takes us back to that Titanic. Oh, she reveals that the pictures of her, the drawings of her.
Yeah.
Okay, the picture couldn't survive in the water.
Impossible.
Is that true? Because somebody said like that's horseshit, and I was like, no, but it was in a safe. Like,
Something with the leather, though, right? Isn't like a leather-bound artist book?
He's got a little folio.
I don't think there's salt. It's salt water.
all right,
I
I'm
think-
gonna-
And also, when they open up the safe, everything else that
Everything
comes out
else
is
is
like
pulp.
muddy sludge.
Yeah.
And when you see the safe, it's all paper. It's like, how'd this one
Unless
thing?
he was drawing on like I don't know. Even vellum is probably Anyway,
And they also clean it
Please
off.
keep
What
going.
about paper?
They clean it off. When they clean it off, they clean it off with water. And it's
Yeah.
like, this would deteriorate it
Yeah.
even further. They're like
No.
washing it.
all right, I
Katie
googled.
and
could-
Charlie are leaving the studio.
Bye, Katie. She'll be back. I googled. Could the picture have survived but obviously now I'm just getting a lot of things sort of like Jack and Rose totally could have both survived. So I don't know.
I looked it up on Yahoo. The thing I was saying before we started recording is that any question you want to ask about Titanic, if you start to type it into Google, it starts to fill it in for you because everybody has asked any possible question.
That's how you know you're in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Like, could rats have gotten on the ship? Indeed, they could have.
How did they get on the ship? Because
when
said
they were being built, when the ship was being built in the shipyard, rats would get in and stay in, as well as dead bodies.
Could medication
dead bodies would go in?
Yeah, dead bodies. There's lots of things that were already in the ship. There was
blood pressure pills actually make John Travolta's face look like that? That's old dogs questions. When you're in the zeitgeist.
Enough with the old dogs jokes. I will kill you.
That autofills. I swear to God, that autofills if you search for it.
So, Rose DeWitt Bukater.
Yep.
Bukater.
Yeah, Rose DeWitt Bukater.
Weird ass.
It's a pretty weird name.
Yeah.
So she's
17 years old.
She's 17.
She's got a killer hat.
Society girl from Philly. Yep. Philadelphia.
She put the in Philadelphia.
She's engaged to a 30-year-old tycoon.
And what a
gem of
this guy
a
is.
gem of a man.
Yeah.
The heir to a Pittsburgh steel fortune.
Yeah, the turd of the ocean, I call him.
Called Cal Hockley, although his first name is apparently Caledon. I did not know that.
Yeah, if you ask me, I'd guess that he was the heir to a toupee fortune.
He's got real floppy hair.
He does.
But he's not the only person on this boat who will have floppy hair.
That is true. Floppy hair was apparently all the rage in 1912.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Katie, Emily, your impressions of Rose's first scene. Kate Winslet's first scene.
Okay.
Stepping out of that car.
The gloved hand on the edge of the car, and the hat brim flip up is
Big
like one of
purple hat.
the best introductions of a character in any film.
It's epic. They're telling you this character matters.
Yeah.
When I rewatched it just now, that is the first time that I started crying. I cried 4 times, I believe, through my rewatch.
There's
It
also
is the
something.
greatest, absolute greatest entrance.
You know why it's good though? It's good because of Gloria Stewart. Because she sells you on this real kind of like longing about being a young girl, even being an unhappy young girl. And so when we get to actually see that again through her eyes, you're like, oh man, time.
And
And
we should talk.
This time is brutal.
And she did the thing she does the monologue about you could still smell the fresh paint. You know? And then he does the first morph. He likes that morph effect that where the ship turns into.
Yeah, you see the undersea wreckage. It turns into
pretty
amazing.
cool.
Ship looks great.
It was. They called it the Ship of Dreams.
It really was.
And then you get Rose. I mean, the movie's just really pumping you up in appropriate and normal
I think
ways.
also he could have had her be just as wowed by the ship as everybody else. I guess that's kind of like part of her character is that she's not. She's hard to impress.
Well, also I think it's also I think she's sick of ostentatiousness, right? She's unimpressed by all of the sort of typical dressing of her aristocratic.
She likes it real. She likes it gritty.
Yeah, she's not into it.
She'd love the Zack Snyder DC universe. She wants like the street level, like the grimy.
Emily, do you have any thoughts? Just to
she
cut
loves
that off.
Suicide Squad. She thought the Suicide Squad was so twisted.
So her fiance is really excited about the ship. Oh, also, this is something that other David pointed out correctly.
The wonderful future podcast guest, David Reed.
That the line about it being a slave ship would not has not aged well.
That one clunks, right? Because
yeah.
it's not Kate Winslet's character saying it, because that you could forgive, because you're like, oh, look, it's 1912. What the fuck does she know? But Gloria Stewart in voiceover says, it was like a slave ship.
But
and you're
she
like,
says,
ooh,
but to
taking
be fair,
me in chains.
Yes. To be fair, she does say, to me it was.
No, of course.
So it's like, I was young and dumb and didn't know how privileged I was, maybe. But you couldn't assign as much as you want.
That line
whatever.
is like
it
an
doesn't
iceberg crashing against the hull of the
They
ship.
try to port around it,
But
but
it's not the only reference to slave ships in this movie.
Is that right? When's the other?
Leo says that when he's going back down to third class, when he's leaving dinner, he's like, I'm going to go row with the other slaves.
Right. Which is, but that's a pretty funny line.
And there's also that scene
I like that line. That one's good. He got
That's
a good
funny slavery. Right?
He got a good burn in on those Richie Riches.
There was that scene where he goes down to the lower class rooms and they're all watching Amistad on VHS. There's that scene.
Which should just
It's
come
like
out.
It's the only thing I have on video though.
Yeah.
It's the
like,
only anachronism, but I think it's a good one.
That's the crazy thing too, because the movie was already running so long, and then Jim Cameron
You just
decides to
watch
just put
Amistad.
like 25 minutes of Amistad in the middle of it.
But the courtroom scenes for some reason.
Yeah, the Hopkins really pops in those. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
They had to adjust the tracking.
So that's right. So you want to talk? Should we talk about Cal?
4 comedy points.
Cal's the performance that I really loved when I was a teenager. It's so big.
Well, he's playing to the cheap seats.
It's so dialed into the grandest, silliest vibe of this.
You could place this performance in an episode of Kenan and Kel, and it would track. You know, this is.
I mean,
he's got his hat?
He has one of the best.
He's got a cane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry, you can go.
No, he has one of the best. Please go ahead.
He has one of the best lines early in the film, not in that scene, but when. Also, can we just have a whole 30 minutes to talk about art in this movie?
Oh yeah. By the way, apparently all Western art was lost in the Titanic. Right. Like all modernist art.
Every major Monet,
the original cut of Magnificent Amberson,
Savignon. But I love. Okay, so I was tweeting about this the other night, and I didn't realize that another really good one is in this movie, which is Picasso. He won't amount to a thing.
Yep, great.
The winky history line.
Yeah,
I love it.
I believe your tweet was also about the fact that Jesus invents a chair in The Passion of the Christ, and they say it'll never work, which does happen in that movie. It's really the best.
Chairs, they'll never catch on.
Because he's like, I'm just a simple carpenter. Here's my latest invention, a chair. And everyone's like, chair? Why do you need a chair? Sit on the floor.
This is the worst idea you've had since that Christianity bullshit. 2 flops in a row?
I think the Pharisees are just fine, and I think the floor is just fine.
But just to continue with painting, because I don't want to go back to this subject because I could talk about it forever, but also when Jack comes back to their room later and checks out the Monet, one of my other favorite lines is, look at the use of color here.
The use of color. And Cameron tracks his hand moving across the painting.
He's a true artist.
Like
he knows
he's
where
an
to
empath.
look.
He
knows where the eye goes in the frame.
That would be a good
He can
CBS
read a
procedural, is the person who can read art. You know? That's their superpowers. They can read art and crack the case.
Or X-raying art, which is a real thing. That would be
well, so Dark the Con of Man. Oh my God, Katey Rich. Okay, stepping up her game.
She's wrapped him up now.
She's wrapped.
He's in a bundle.
He's in a bundle. Much like the Blu-ray DVD bundle that I bought. Titanic
4 discs.
on. It's a 4-disc
plus
combo
digital
pack,
copy,
and it has 2 discs for 3D because each half of the movies can only fit on 1 disc.
Okay, so let's talk about this kid playing a poker game with his Italian buddy.
We talked about Kate's intro, but we got...
I've been listening. You were talking about the Degas, and he's not going anywhere. And
I love that you just took your headphones out and have just been listening to the podcast while trying to quiet down Charlie.
Oh, I've been hovering. No, I didn't take that. I've been just hovering.
Gotcha,
I've been hovering in the hallway.
But can I say one more thing about the art before we move on to that scrappy young stowaway?
You can stop whispering, but yes.
Okay, but I want to because this is dramatic.
Uh-huh.
I love the fact that he says, "Who's this by?" And she goes, "I don't know, something Picasso."
At least they were cheap.
Yeah, if you want to be even a little bit elegant and respect the intelligence of your audience, you go, "I don't know, Pablo something."
That's almost worse.
Picasso being the part you remember.
Something Picasso.
It's the ultimate audience flattering line, though.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody in that crowd who's going to be like, oh, who is that by? Who's that?
Everyone in history was so stupid, man. They just didn't get it.
It is such a James Cameron, though, thing where he's like, he's like, oh, don't you get it? Rose is smart. She gets that Picasso's cool, before anyone else in high society. At least they were cheap.
There's the joke.
I love that line.
At least they were cheap.
At least they were cheap. He says it to Lovejoy, and Lovejoy's like, I don't care. I'm a Terminator. I have no opinion on art.
For the listener at home, David is doing a great Billy Zane face when he's saying the line. Yeah, he's doing a really good facial impression.
I just love that she has 50 suitcases, and that.
But she does in present day too.
Yeah,
and right, she always has her pictures.
Yeah.
She brings her pictures with her, and the way he puts they drop this in, which he's going to do 2.5 hours later, where he handshakes the guy with the money and says, "I put my faith in you, sir."
Yeah,
I love that. I love that it comes back around.
In the original Toy Story, Mr. Potato Head's character introduction is he turns around and goes, "Look, I'm Picasso," because his face is in a weird order.
Right, yeah.
And I laughed at that joke because I was like, I can tell that's a joke, but I didn't know what it meant. My mom got me into art through Toy Story.
Oh my God.
She bought me Picasso books because it was I would only like things if they had an association to Toy Story.
You were a weird kid.
I was a weird kid.
Your mom must have been so excited though to get you into Picasso.
Oh, she loved it. I was all about Picasso because I was like, that guy's in Toy Story. He's the only painter in Toy Story. He rules.
How old were you when you saw Toy Story?
6.
Okay.
I mean, it was right there.
I mean, it seems like it's your Little Mermaid, because Little Mermaid, I'm realizing more and more as I get older. It's like the ocean.
It's the movie for me. It's my Rosetta Stone. It's what I come back to. I'm wearing Toy Story sneakers right now.
He is. They're actually really cool. You should check them out
Cool.
later.
They're very subtle. They're very subtle and sophisticated and adult, and I'm a grown-up.
Katie, do you have any Zane takes before we move on to Jack?
I mean,
or Kate Winslet takes,
I mean, what else has Billy Zane been in?
The Phantom?
Back to the Future.
Part 2 and 3.
Importantly.
And 1. He's in all 3.
Yeah. He's in all 3.
Zoolander?
Zoolander.
Zoolander 2,
he did a remake of Ed Wood's Glen or Glenda.
He's in Dead Calm, which is he's pretty cool in that, actually. That's a good movie. But no, obviously it is
He's
crazy.
In Orlando?
Yes. He's in the Sally Potter movie Orlando, the adaptation of the Virginia Woolf novel. He's in Tombstone.
He's in The Silence of the Hams.
Whatever that is.
Oh, that's a Dom DeLuise parody?
Yeah, I remember the poster for that movie.
Yeah, I think that's what we all only. He's in the Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight.
Can we do just Billy Zane?
Yeah, and he had just been in The Phantom, which is a terrifically strange little superhero movie.
That was that weird period where Batman did really well, and they were like, "Oh, the thing they like is pulpy,
very old school
Let's do a
30s
Dick
pulpy
Tracy
shit.
movie.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't make other superhero movies. They did The Phantom, they did The Shadow, and they did Dick Tracy. Like they went to other sort of early
radio
1900s
serials.
pulp stuff, but then didn't adapt other. It's very interesting.
He keeps
to me.
being in movies. His filmography is just so deep. He makes like 5 movies a year, all of them straight to DVD these days. But it is funny to watch this movie and be like, look, Leo, Kate, Billy Zane.
Yep.
Like, I mean,
When it was also this example of high tide rises all ships, where like Zane had such a cultural moment. Like it didn't translate to him like doing a lot as an actor afterwards.
I hope you enjoy your time together.
I just remember that like when this won Best Film at the MTV Movie Awards, Zane accepted it.
Sure.
Because Leo was like, hell no.
Everyone else had sort of distanced. Like I think both.
Because Leo had gone into his like hibernation mode, right, where he couldn't deal. Right.
And I think Winslet was in a similar kind
Well,
of.
she just like moved to London and
she got married very
and made
quickly
hideous
after that.
Kinky.
Right, but Hideous Kinky was 2 years later. Like she didn't make a movie for 2 years, and she got married and had a baby. I think both of them sort of retreated, and Billy Zane became like the spokesperson for the movie. Like I just remember. I hadn't
It was
seen
Zane
the
and
movie.
Nucci. Zane and Nucci.
But Zane was like doing the press tour, like when they were like Titanic's #1 for a 16th week in a row, and here on the Today Show is Billy Zane, and Zane would just be doing the victory
Listen
lap.
to your friend Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Just FYI, we're an hour and 12 minutes. We haven't even introduced Leo DiCaprio.
It's a 2-parter, baby.
At what point in the movie does Leo get introduced? Like 40 minutes in?
I'm probably right.
Yeah. I mean, because it's after we've already introduced everybody before they've gone on the ship.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We don't have the Picasso scene, right? We have Kate's introduction and Billy Zane and Francis Fisher
Right,
and all those people. David
Yeah,
Warner.
because the Picasso
Cal's
scene
robot.
is after
Yeah.
the big triumphant leaving King of the World. No, King of the World comes later. Sorry. King of the World is when they're leaving Cherbourg and after, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
this is the
Mr.
poker
Murdoch.
scene.
They go straight from poker. They run on board. Some fiddle music plays. And
That's a
then
great
they run
character
straight up to the
introduction.
top deck, and they go all the way to the front. And they
Oh,
do
that
the
is
thing.
okay. So it is because there's 2 like Titanic leaving scenes. Like it's when they leave the dock, and
Yes.
then it's when they like go out into the open ocean. So I couldn't
Right.
remember.
Yeah.
Take her to sea, Mr.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Well, and they're running late because but by the time they win the tickets in the poker game,
2 Swedish men.
5
All life
minutes.
is a
5
game
minutes.
of luck.
Yes.
Well, yes, that comes later.
Some
That's
men make
Mr.
their own luck.
Gracie's.
I
Yes,
know,
this is
but
the
I'm just
scene that
reminding you
proves it.
guys.
That all life is a game of
Yeah.
luck,
Although
which is
poker
important
is
to remember.
not really a game of luck. It's kind of a game of skill, isn't
There's
it?
some luck involved.
Anyway, I don't want to
Social
linger
cues.
too long on the poker game, but
Well, the poker
No, we
game,
got time.
The
Emily,
poker
if you
game
wanna go.
scene is ridiculously cheesy, even by Titanic standards, I would
Yeah.
say. And I hate his stupid Simon Cowell bit where he's like, "You're not gonna. I'm
sorry
sorry
for
for
breaking
being
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not gonna see your
oh,
mother
that is
for a
so
long
Simon Cowell. Oh, that's such a perfect call. Let's
We're
say,
going to America, baby."
can I just put one editorial position out here, just like at the top of this podcast?
Yeah, I
Since
like
we're
how you
an hour.
balanced Katie's book on your lap.
Oh
for
yeah,
some
sorry.
reason.
I'll
yeah,
lend it to
no,
somebody
it's
else. I was
it is a
paging
group
through
book.
it.
No, page through. Page.
Emily is nursing the book. She
I
has
am.
a baby
I know.
bottle,
I feel a little
pacifier.
empty right now.
She's got a sling.
I feel very envious.
Ambient noise is what this podcast is all about.
This book is making my biological clock. But I just want to put this out there, and this is not exclusive to Titanic, but it is related to Titanic. I do not enjoy any Leonardo DiCaprio performance ever in history.
Including this one?
Including this one.
Not a one.
Nope, I do not. And and that was one of my bad dude, like 7th grader, takeaways from this movie. Like, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio isn't that good.
Well,
I still don't think he's that good.
I think Leo's good, although he can be bad. But
He can be bad.
I think Griffin and I agree on the best Leo performance, and we should do the best line from it right now. Right?
1, 2, 3. We are duly appointed federal marshals. I don't think it's his best performance. I do think it's the best line he's uttered.
To me, that's my favorite Leo. What's your favorite Leo? Catch Me If You Can is up there, too.
Yeah, I like the ones where he's having fun.
Wolf of Wall Street, man.
I like Wolf of Wall Street. I think that's
shit.
maybe his
That
best.
might be his best. Yeah,
I
that's
think
his
that's
best,
his
Emily.
best.
Emily's making a great face right now.
Titanic's top 5 for me because
I think he's fine in Titanic.
he's not consistently great, but I think he's got what he's able to do well in Titanic. Very few actors can do well.
Easy,
You know what I'm saying?
Charm. Like,
Yeah,
he's
sure.
not. He doesn't seem like he's trying anything.
Yes.
Oh,
And
I would disagree.
Oh, in
I think he
Titanic?
sounds-
Certain scenes, I think he's pushing it hard.
Yeah.
In other scenes, I think he's got a very light touch.
Yeah. And you think of his later performances where he is just working.
You
like,
see the work. He's showing you the long division on the
goodness.
paper.
Blood Diamond
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
He's always felt like a little boy in a big coat trying to do like acting.
Which
to
is
me.
why I think what Departed is one of his best performances, because that's about a little boy in a big coat.
And
trying to
Wolf
do
of Wall
acting.
Street,
And
too.
Wolf of Wall
Yes.
Street. Yes, I agree. I think it's best, but Shutter Island is the best one of them all because that is what that movie is about. He is so fucked up that a whole island is pretending like he's a cop just to try and make him feel better. I love that
That's what
movie.
being a movie star is like, right? There's
Right.
just like
That's what Shutter Island is.
systems.
It's about
Yeah.
filmmaking. It is. Shutter Island's the greatest
Yeah.
movie.
Just Kevin Connolly is hanging out with you and Lucas Haas.
Pussy Patrol. Pussy
Posse.
Posse. Pussy
Tobey
Posse.
Posse.
Maguire just got divorced. Pussy Posse's back.
I know.
Golden age.
It's not just Leo
It's
and
a posse.
Lucas.
Let's be
Maguire
clear,
just
it's a
got divorced?
posse, not a
Yeah,
patrol.
sorry.
Nobody
I
is
didn't-
patrolling.
I didn't mean to say patrol. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to keep everything on track right now. And
We're
talking
so
about-
on track right now.
All right, do you have a Leo? Katie, what's your
A
Leo?
Leo take?
Yeah. What do you think of Leo? I mean,
Yeah.
did you like Leo?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I wasn't like obsessed with Leo. Like I was a
Some people were
little.
obsessed
I was
with
a little Daria, like
You were
Emily,
more into
and
the
like
ship.
yeah, like into the
Yeah.
ship, but also into like the movie. I started reading Entertainment Weekly. I was into like the box office and the Oscars,
Sure.
which just all makes sense for
was-
what I do now.
Such a movie in terms of all the like sort of cultural like seepings that a movie can have.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it encapsulated everything that can come out of a movie.
Yeah.
To its most extreme.
Yeah, and I got into like the Hollywood side of it, and like Leo, like no, I liked Leo, but I never saw Man in the Iron Mask or The Beach. Like I didn't feel the need to follow.
He had a
him after
funny
that.
post. I had seen Romeo and Juliet in theaters. I think that's the only Leo performance I had seen before. Had you? No?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've seen that.
You just said oh. That's sort of.
Although
Well,
my
I mean, I like that movie a lot. I think he's okay in it.
I think he's pretty good in it. I think
Yeah.
it's a young performance,
I mean,
but it
it's,
works.
it's fine.
well, What's Eating Gilbert Grape is what you really want to go back.
That's the
Yeah,
best.
well,
one.
sure.
Yeah.
And that, like, so my mom and my sister and I,
I also
watched
think
all
he's
of his
lovely
other
in
movies.
The Quick and the Dead.
I've never seen
I still
that.
understand it.
Decent. Not a great movie, but he's very
The crazy
charming
thing
in it.
about Gilbert Grape, I just really went on a tangent. Like that performance made his career. Like that is what put him on the map.
Sure.
Yeah.
No one could do that performance anymore. That
No.
performance would never work.
happen.
And he is a very big modern movie star whose career is built on a performance that would be completely unacceptable.
It's very true.
Yeah, and it's also interesting where it's like that's one of the few performances of that kind that still holds up.
Yeah,
Like
it
you're
does
like,
hold up.
They wouldn't let him do it today, but it's one of the few times that someone has played a mentally challenged person and not made it feel sort of mawkish.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like he's playing it realistically without sort of any sentimentality.
Yeah.
Which is like, you can't say that for Sean Penn, you know?
Does Rain Man hold up? I haven't watched it in very
No.
It's a little cartoony, I think.
Rain
it's
Man
like,
Tom Cruise holds up.
yeah.
Dustin doesn't.
I think it's a good performance in a vacuum.
Yeah, I hate
I
that.
think it's like a little problematic, like
performance.
held against
Yeah.
the real world, you know?
Yeah.
All right, Leo's on the ship. Kate's on the ship.
He's the king
Spice
of the
her love-
world.
He's the king of the
I
world.
do think you're gonna punch me in the face for
I am
saying
gonna
this.
fucking punch you in the face.
Fudging.
Fudging, yeah. Sorry. Forking.
Yeah, we're back in here now.
I'm big, good place.
I do think we should talk about Leomania a little bit because that was like a
Sure.
result of this movie that hasn't really
I'm
happened
not punching you in
Listen.
the face.
since then.
I can sum up the Leo mania around this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio, like teenage or like teen playing Leonardo DiCaprio.
He was, I believe, 22 when he shot
Okay,
this movie.
okay.
21, somewhere around there.
He was a very wet actor. And this movie put him in the perfect setting. He actually was not only wet and in water, but he got like a little frosty too.
Mhm.
That's it. That's the entire
Frosted tips, and he literally
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
frosted
He
tips.
does
in
get
this
frosted
movie.
tips
I
and
don't
a
know,
frosted mustache.
His hair looks incredible wet.
He's
I mean,
so
that's a-
dewy.
He's
Yeah.
just very
Very
dewy.
He's just the dewiest actor ever there was.
His Romeo and Juliet performance and his Gilbert Grape performance, both of which involve a lot of crying, are both very wet
Yeah.
performances.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Romeo
on
and
board
Juliet.
with
I
this.
defy you, stars, like on his knees in the rain, like
Yeah.
that.
He's playing like the
It's
best
a wet
boyfriend
movie,
of all
actually.
time.
Yeah, a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And then like Tybalt gets shot and falls in a
Oh,
fountain. A lot of water.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing Romeo and Juliet podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a scene
Oh,
where
I
Juliet
would- I
drinks a
would.
glass of water.
Sign off on this conversation.
Okay, so Ben walked in, said I sign off on this conversation, and walked out.
Oh boy, that was great. He looked good too.
He looked
Yeah.
great. Ben looks
Yeah.
really good these days. He's been
He
getting
does.
into fashion lately. I don't know.
Yeah, have you guys heard Ben's fashion tips?
I have heard about
Yeah.
Ben's fashion. I mean, I don't know them specifically, but I know that he's been getting into fashion.
If you tweet at Ben Hosley on Twitter, he'll give you fashion tips. He's been doing it. I've been watching him do it.
Yeah,
on
some of
Twitter.
our blankies. I forgot that's your biggest credit. Is you're the mother of blankies.
Oh,
And
yeah.
now we have a
You're
subreddit.
welcome.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we have a subreddit called /r/blankies.
You're welcome,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Reddit.
I got to read that subreddit before this episode comes out because I don't want to read anyone talking about me, but I want to read what everyone else is saying.
Absolutely, you got to check it out.
We'll
a
tell you if
lot of
Charlie gets
conversation
upvoted,
happening
though.
on
Yeah.
Reddit. A great website where nothing bad ever happens.
Ever. It's
Yeah.
never
Totally sign off on Reddit.
Yeah.
happened. But
Please talk about me on Reddit. I will never read it. That's the thing. You can say whatever you want. I'll never.
You'll
read
never
it.
read. All right, whatever. Okay, I'm sorry. What do
mother
you-
of blankies. What was
Yeah,
I gonna say?
I don't know. You want to talk about Leomania? I feel like
Uh,
it's pretty obvious stuff.
Leomania, Dewey, Frosted Tips.
I feel like no one in
wet
this
hair.
room had Leomania though.
No, I
It
think
was a phenomenon.
my sis. I should call my sister and like ask her because I
Mhm.
think Leo was like her first movie star crush. Like I had Jonathan Taylor Thomas before
Sure.
Leo, so it was like a second round.
Is your sister older or
younger?
Right,
So
right,
yeah,
right,
she was like 4th, 5th grade at that point.
I remember the Olsen twins sitcom Two of a Kind, which I watched every
my
episode
God.
of.
Me too.
Great show.
What's it?
Christopher
Christopher
Sieber was on it.
He's a great actor.
Fucking great show. It ends in a
Fudging. Yeah.
ends in a cliffhanger. It's a real bummer. You never know if they're going to get together or not. Him and the babysitter. Doesn't matter.
I thought
Moving on.
you were Mary Kate
No.
and Ashley were gonna get together.
No, but in that
Not my kind of
show, they have a Titanic and a Leo poster
Oh,
on
yeah.
their wall, and it was like that show came out in
A
'98.
question about Leomania: has there been examples since then of someone who's become like a boyfriend?
So this
not
is why I
not
wanna
even on
talk
the
about
scale, but
this.
someone who
Yeah.
actively rejects it and has no interest in it.
I think there's
Oh,
one
no.
that came close. I think there's one that came close, but this is the reason I want to talk about this because it is sort of such an anomalous thing that hasn't really happened since then. My sister has seen Titanic, but was born the year after it came out.
Wow.
My sister's born March 1998, so she was born.
It
like
was still
4
number
months
one at the box office.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was trying to sort of explain the whole Titanic culture to her and what an impact it had, and the Leomania thing, which is like kind of anomalous. And I was like, I don't even know if there's a point of reference, something I could equate it to, because it was like suddenly everyone's talking about this guy.
Okay,
And I remember,
what
like,
was her example?
TV would do primetime
What was
specials
her
interviewing
example?
the parents. Robert Pattinson a little bit,
Sure,
but
and it's true in the same way that he rejected it.
in the
Yep.
rejection,
Yeah, that's a good
definitely.
call. Yeah.
But I think it went away a lot
and
faster.
also he's kind of wet and floppy
Oh,
hair.
definitely.
Dewy,
Sort of-
very dewy.
kind of skinny. Like I don't know. Like yeah.
Definitely. I think the difference with Robert Pattinson is that there was a pre-existing character that people had already latched onto.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he sort of walked into a space
Definitely. And also, I feel like it just died down faster.
much faster.
But he made the same choices. He was like, I'm not making
Yeah.
commercial movies anymore. Like, I'm only working with like cool
It didn't
directors.
work as well. I mean,
No, it
that's
didn't
the
work
annoying
as well.
thing. Yeah,
He's okay.
I think he's a good actor. I mean, I like him actually. I
I
contend.
never liked him.
I like him. I don't think he's always good. I think when he is good, he's particularly good.
Pattinson?
Well, here's the other thing. The reason you're not going to find another phenomenon exactly like this because there aren't going to be
Yeah.
actors in this sort of role
Mhm.
that isn't based on a prior property. Like,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
is-
it's
Yes.
very similar. Like Daniel Radcliffe. Daniel Radcliffe would maybe be another one, like older Daniel Radcliffe, and he's done a similar thing as Pattinson.
Yeah.
But all these are franchises built in, like very calculated in a way. Like there wasn't a Titanic the novel. Like
Right.
there wasn't anything like
Yeah, there were
that.
people like dying to find out what Jack Dawson would be.
Yeah.
compared to their imagination.
Yeah,
Right,
who's
and
going to
then-
be Jack Dawson?
And then
Yeah.
people being like, he's not what I imagined.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
And there's that thing where it's like people were choosing to fall in love with Pattinson's version of Edward Cullen, but that
Right,
wasn't
right. It
Edward
could
Cullen,
have been
period.
anyone.
The biggest
Right.
difference is that Twilight fans, when his casting was announced, were
Went
mad
ballistic.
because he was in Harry Potter.
Right.
And like, so there was already a pre-existing. They were like, I don't like him in Harry Potter, the other pre-existing franchise
Right.
that he's
How
coming
would you
from.
not like him in Harry Potter?
He's great in Harry Potter. He's lovely.
So I'm not going to go into a whole side tangent on this,
No,
but
we're
I
done with the tangent.
I contend that Robert Pattinson's really good in the first Twilight because he's doing a weird, vaguely Nicolas Cage performance of like a vampire. Like he's kind of playing it realistically.
I could be sold on that call.
And then
I've never seen any of the other ones.
from the sequels on, he starts
He's
having
sort
to
of
just be
detached.
milquetoast.
Yeah.
I think his detachment's also like, I have to sand off the rough edges because there's too much at stake.
Sure.
And then he gets boring. But the first one, he does all these weird sort of wincy things where it's like,
Well, he's
this
like
feels-
nauseated by
Right.
her. He's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
always on the brink of puking.
Because
which
she
is great.
stinks, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the premise of Twilight.
Which is so amazing.
She
God,
stinks
Twilight
so
is
hard that he
so
falls in love with
weird.
her.
Can you imagine how fucked up you would be? I'm sorry, fudged up you would be now as a young woman if you had been brought up on like that had been your
God.
touchstone
We
of
should
like
check
gonna
in with
ruin a
them.
lot of
It's
people.
been like almost
Yeah.
10 years. We should
Yeah.
check in with
Well,
those
how's
girls.
Romilly doing?
She didn't like
Oh,
them.
she didn't. Okay, so it
Okay.
didn't work for her.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
think all the weird stuff about like your virginity,
Oh, all
and,
the
like,
sex
being
stuff is
stinky, and like
messed
oh
up.
my god.
But you know, like Romley's whole thing is that like I hope I'm not blowing up her spot here, but like certainly growing up, her whole thing was that like the actors that she'd have movie star crushes on were like real kind of like dad actors.
Like
She was-
Patrick Stewart.
The one she was huge on was
Oh
Hugh
my God.
Grant.
Sure.
You know, like she like loved Hugh Grant when she was like 8, and all the other girls were into like
Teeny actors.
But she's always sort of like gone for the guys who are just like, oh, he seems like he'd be a good husband. She famously said that she thought Ed Helms was cute, and we were like, Ed Helms is like, yeah, he like dresses well. He seems like a nice
all
guy.
right. He plays the banjo. He's
checks
got
off
glasses.
all the boxes.
She's just looking for like a comfortable. I always said that Romley fantasizes about her first divorce. Like that's the storybook divorce.
Wow.
she
I'm cutting you off.
wants. Okay.
All
So everybody's on the boat.
All right,
They're
everyone's
on the boat.
He's the king of the world. That's very early.
What
I
hap-
can't remember
okay.
exactly where it is. No, go
So-
ahead.
No, I just
He's the
wanted to
king of
know
the
what
world.
happens
She's got
after.
the Picasso.
And then
Yeah.
then she unpacks all of her stuff. And then what else? What's the
I
next?
feel like the first big thing is her trying to jump, right? Like, is
Yeah,
there any
well, yeah.
other
Well,
major thing in between?
Yeah, well, he gives her the diamond after she tries to jump, right? No, it's before, right?
No, it's after.
It's after.
Oh, okay.
It
Because
is
she's
after.
upset,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I was gonna save this
Right.
for our
Well, he
wedding
sees
night."
her, he's on the lower deck and he sees Kate like on the upper deck, and she looks beautiful. And Tommy's like, "You're never gonna get her."
Right.
Yeah, she's
And
out of your
then it's the
class.
dinner
Oil.
scene where she then
It's
runs
a different
away
world.
from and tries to jump.
And we've
There's
seen her
also-
also be hostile and drop a Freud reference. And
Oh, right.
we-
Yeah.
We've met
Lamb
Ismay.
You're getting a little
Mint
punchy.
sauce.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say
yeah, the-
Ismay is important.
We've met
the
Ismay, we've met Molly
captain.
Brown.
Yep.
Well,
I'm
for
single,
all you
Molly Brown.
shipheads
And
out there,
Andrews.
we learned that like they're gonna go faster than
Yeah, they're gonna light the rest
than
of
they
the
should,
boilers.
which is just bad news. Just don't do
They
it.
want to make
Right.
headlines.
And it's
Um,
like Bernard Hill. This is his last sail, right? Don't they say that he's like about to retire?
He's about to retire.
Yes.
Right. This is like his last
Yeah.
voyage.
Also, we learn a little bit, I think, here and more later. Rose is a big shiphead.
Yeah.
She's just like us.
She
She's
pays
just in it for the
attention.
ship.
Oh yeah. She's
Oh,
just
right,
like,
yeah,
Mr.
she
Andrews is like,
notices-
you're
Yeah.
a smart one
Rose,
right there.
nothing escapes you.
The original shipper, a literal shipper.
Oh boy.
But I think it is important that you meet Ismay. You see her mock him.
No bits, pro ships.
Sure. Okay.
So I'd say Rose has two of her best dresses in these scenes, like the one where she's eating the lamb, like
Oh,
white
She's
and
got
some
green.
fucking-
That was a good one. And then the
Sorry.
jump
The
one.
suicide one is suicide dress. That is it's so 90s. It's so anachronistic. Her makeup look is like every single makeup tutorial in 17 magazine in 1997.
the-
Like the dark lip, like very Tori Amos.
Yeah, very
like,
drawn in
Right, very,
brows.
very
Yeah.
pale too.
And like
She's-
the Empire waist too is also very kind of. It's like the baby doll look except long. Like it's very very 90s. Her
But-
entire.
It's a good dress.
It's good. It's a great dress.
Yeah.
I'm not dissing the dress. I'm just saying it's one of these things. It's what like who did the costumes for this? Because there is this element of like knowing when to modernize just enough to bring in a
That
current day
people know-
audience. That you're
yeah.
like, oh, I understand you. You're not this weird alien from another
Well,
time.
and like Leo's hair is a big
Yes.
one. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like every boy in my middle school had that haircut.
You need
I'm
like
trying to find the costume
the
designer,
overlap
sorry.
in the Venn diagram between like what's historically accurate and then fitting into like modern standards of beauty and
Yeah.
cool, so
Yeah.
that it's still like this is impressionistically how you would feel if you looked at this person
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Like he needs to be the bad boy.
He's floppy.
Deborah L. Scott. Deborah Lynn Scott.
Won an Oscar,
Costume
I
designer.
assume?
She won an Oscar. This film won every Oscar it was nominated for except for actress, supporting actress,
She
and
did the
Makeup.
Avatar
Makeup.
costume.
Lost to Men in Black.
yeah, which is a
Oh,
great
she
way.
did
great-
the Back to the Future costume design. Well,
Ooh.
she's
Wow, that's pretty
Hall of
good.
Fame.
She did
Yeah.
Avatar. She's done some Transformers movies. She did The Island. She's done a lot of Michael Bay. She does all of Michael Bay's
interesting.
movies. She did Wild Wild West. She did Heat. Great
Oh.
great
Wow,
costuming.
wow.
in
Wild
Heat.
Wild West actually has great costumes too. That's a highlight of that movie.
Yeah, it's she did Minority Report, which has fantastic costumes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's got really good future
Uh-huh.
dress, both in the
Wow,
yeah.
she's got range.
casual.
That's great.
She's got range.
She's got the range.
Got the range.
So I'm looking at IMDb right now because I want to make sure we'd covered all the main characters. It's like, okay, we got Cal, we got Molly Brown, we got
we met Molly Brown, played by Kathy Bates, real person.
Yeah.
Right.
The unsinkable Molly
There's
Brown.
a musical about her that I grew
Debbie
up
Reynolds,
on.
right?
Debbie Reynolds, yeah.
You're gonna cut her meat for you, Cal?
You're gonna cut her meat for her too, Cal?
She's so.
She's just a fun
so
little season.
Sometimes you
good.
kind of forget that Kathy Bates is in Titanic.
I'm just so glad she's in it though. Like that character is great, and she is great.
I thought I read somewhere that there aren't more real passengers on the Titanic who are characters in the film because of like estates or something.
Is that
not
true?
wanting
But
them.
you've got Astor, Gracie, and Guggenheim.
But they're not like the Astor is
But they-
like barely.
But they
there.
do. They reference
Yeah.
him, and then you see
Yeah.
them die. I mean, Guggenheim, you see die. Astor, you see die.
So
And Gracie, you see die.
I'm hoping I'm getting this right, but I
But
think
yeah, that's
what
about it.
I think
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
learned from James Cameron's commentary is that Murdoch's family. So he jumping
Well,
ahead
this
a little
was
bit.
hugely controversial. I
Oh,
lived
okay,
in
so you're
Britain.
gonna get to this.
In Britain,
Oh,
it was,
this was a huge thing.
in Britain, it was like a national controversy because
Wow.
he is a
So
Scottish
do you
hero.
want to get into this then?
Murdoch, who's played by Ewan Stewart, who I don't know that actor at all, but he's really good in the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
He's the actor who shoots. He's the character who shoots himself.
Well, he shoots
after
Tommy,
he accidentally
and
shoots
then-
Tommy,
yeah.
who's a made-up Irish saint of a character.
He has some of the best reaction shots.
So good.
I've
He's
ever
the one,
seen from an
He's the
actor.
one Cal bribes, and then
Yeah.
he rejects the bribe.
But he plays like trauma, really,
Yeah.
really well.
So
Yeah.
that guy is a very famous hero in Scotland. He's like the hero of his town, Dalbeattie, and like I don't know, like whatever. He was this like famous person on the Titanic who died, supposedly rescuing people. Some people on the Titanic said they saw someone shooting passengers. There were like lots of eyewitness accounts of that, but it's 1912.
And that does happen in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Right,
he's the one you
right,
see shooting
Right,
passengers.
right,
He's the only
right,
one.
Right.
But I mean, you probably have Cameron's take on it, but basically, there's no actual evidence that Murdoch did
Yes,
this
exactly.
or that he shot himself.
Yes.
There are
Interesting.
some people said maybe they saw Murdoch doing it. Some people said
Yeah,
they didn't.
The eyewitness
Like,
accounts from the survivors of the Titanic are all
They're
over the place,
all over
which
the
is why
place.
no one even knows if it actually split above water.
right. Because it was pretty fucked up.
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
They weren't right. They
And it
weren't
was very
taking
dark.
notes.
Very dark.
I mean,
Nobody
first of
was
all,
doing video.
Yeah, first of all, it was pretty fudged up. Second of all, it is important that like it'd be hard to keep count of everything that was happening because they were all busy watching Jack and Rose. Like there's this
Oh, yeah.
amazing love story unfolding in front of
I know.
us.
That's true.
Right,
That's
but
why
that's why they hit the iceberg
know,
in the
the
first
guy
place.
is
It was so
frozen.
distracting.
I
Young
know.
Literally
love.
had turned all the way back at the
Yeah.
wheel.
It was 50% the rudder was too small, 50% Jack and Rose making out on the poop deck.
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
But
Do you
and
guys
then
know?
pooping on the makeout.
Do you
deck.
guys know the most recent theory as to why they didn't see the iceberg? Because it was a clear night.
right,
What's
but
that?
there was no water breaking around the. What it was still water, right? But go
This
ahead.
is
Please go. Please. She's,
my pin tweet on Twitter for a long time was related to this.
oh yeah,
so
right.
yeah, so when I watched this movie with my boyfriend for the first time for him, he had never seen it
Humble
before.
brag.
Yeah, congrats on having a boyfriend.
Yeah, I say
Yeah.
humble brag whenever anyone mentions a significant other.
It was the
Is
eighth
my
time.
baby like the ultimate humble brag
Yeah.
for you?
Bringing it here is the
Yeah,
ultimate.
that's
Yeah,
Bringing
guys.
him here,
Just showing it
Yeah,
off.
you're
So-
real rubbing it in my face.
So after we saw this movie, which was a somewhat significant release at the time that it came out, and so my boyfriend saw this in 2016, and was like, "Oh wow, the Titanic is really interesting, huh?"
Sure.
I can see why so many people were interested in the ship. So then we went on Netflix or whatever and just did a search for Titanic and watched like 2 Nat Geo or some other off-brand Nat Geo impression documentaries about the sinking of the Titanic, and one was about like what actually caused them to hit the iceberg. Are we going way ahead? Are we getting way ahead of ourselves here?
I mean, you're in the story now. I just want you.
It's
I
fine.
like this story.
Okay, yeah. So you know how a mirage is when you've got a hot ground and the heat warps our perception of light and mirrors the sky.
I didn't know that.
That's what it is. So it's
Cool.
like it's just that the pressure or the whatever. The air is bends differently because of the temperature difference. So there had been a warm front that came in, but the sea was really, really cold at that
Charlie
time.
hates this theory.
I know. I'm just telling. I'm gonna
go
Cliff's
ahead,
notes
go
it.
ahead,
I'm gonna
Emma.
Cliff's notes it. So the air was warmer than the sea, which made there be a reverse mirage. So you saw a reflection of the sea
Oh, sure. So it was just
in
darkness,
the air.
essentially.
So you didn't. They couldn't see the iceberg because it was cloudy or misty or whatever.
Right, 'cause it
or
wasn't,
was it?
right.
There was no moon that night though.
it was a new moon.
It was a new moon. But
but not the Twilight Saga new moon.
No.
they would
to be
have.
clear.
They should have been able to see it, but there was this. The theory is now that because of the odd weather at the time, there was a reverse mirage.
And the air was a lens.
The
As
air was
your
a
pinned
lens.
tweet used
That
to
was
say.
my pin. My mind was so blown by this that there could be such a thing as a reverse mirage.
So-
That the air is a lens became my favorite thing.
So, Emily, what you're saying is that it's about the sky.
Oh boy.
You're bringing up my favorite pet theory for all movies.
That they're about the sky.
Every movie's about the
You
sky.
thought this was a movie about the sea,
It's not. It's
but
about.
in fact,
It's about the sky.
So we're an hour and a half in. Should that be our drop-off
let's
point?
just talk about Aloha now.
I just dropped the mic.
Tune in next week,
Listeners'
guys, for
minds are
Titanic Part
blown.
2.
Okay, but I might need you to give me a line for the thing.
Well, which one are you doing?
Wait, there's so many lines.
You
I
don't
know.
have one?
See you guys in Minneapolis.
Well, it's hard to choose.
There's the one there's the one I think I want to do. Hold on. Let me scan. I need to pick the best.
You had
It's- it doesn't
45
take long.
minutes to pick this shit.
Hey, I was eating a spiked Caesar salad. It was spiked with Jack Daniels.
What line would you guys go for?
I put the diamond in the code, and I put the code on the podcast.
I tweeted both that. I mean, I texted that to both of you. I love that. And I yelled it at Joanna, and Joanna was like, put the code on her!
Wait, let's see.
I'd rather be his whore than your podcast.
Ben, you're recording all this, right?
The one my family always quotes for no reason is an hour, 2 at the most, that Mr. Andrews says.
That's good.
I don't know why. No one else likes that line.
All life is a game of luck.
My favorite line in it, which happened right before I stopped watching it this morning, is just when they do the iceberg right ahead, and the guy on the other end of the line goes, "Thank you."
He's so good, that
Yeah.
guy. The
Yeah.
stiff
Is that
upper lip
Murdoch?
British guy. Not Murdoch. It's the other guy. The guy who says, I'll shoot you all like
Oh,
dogs.
yeah, that guy.
Thank you. That's my favorite sequence
you.
in
Yeah.
Titanic,
Yeah.
is the iceberg
And
sequence.
he goes, well, water here.
I want to do him.
And then there's Yoan Griffith.
Yoan Griffith.
Is anyone alive out there?
He's great, man.
Man, what a movie star that guy is.
Wait, that's him?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't. I never
Mr.
put that together.
Fantastic
Yeah.
himself.
I love
Mr.
Yoan.
Forever.
I love Yoan Griffith.
Yeah, I do.
I do too.
Not so much in Fantastic Four.
sir-
But it's not on him.
So she's made a podcast. I assure you, she can sing.
So she will.
She will sing. Okay, are you ready for the one I chose?
Okay.
Ben's putting all that at the end of the episode, okay? Here's the one I chose.
This has been a UCB comedy production. Check out our other shows on the UCB Comedy Podcast Network.